Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to another episode of Top 5. I am running solo for now. I don't have my other co-host. It is one that's on my show. I am going to bring my guests on, so I will not just be by myself. Obviously, I will have a full panel of 4 people, and let's bring them on. We have Carl. How are we doing?
We're doing good. It's just not going live for me. Yeah. Oh, there we are. We're good.
Should be
Perfect.
live.
Never mind. Yeah, we are. I just double checked. My
Okay.
computer was just being
Okay.
like,
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Oop.
Echo.
Echo.
There we go. Echo. There we don't have echo now. But yeah, how are you doing tonight, Carl?
I am doing just peachy keen. How are you doing tonight, Mr. Jason?
I feel like I'm rushing everything, but it's gonna be fine. It's gonna take me about like 2 minutes to get everything else situated as we figure out. But it'll be a good top 5, I believe.
Yes. I've been doing a gag of JRPG month, so this is perfect.
Awesome. Hey, fits right in. So good. We're gonna bring in Kay next. What's going on, Kay?
What is the gag about JRPG month? I've been meaning to ask you, Carl. What is the gag part? You could just call it JRPG month and show off JRPGs.
That's basically what it is. But it's just like I just randomly decided it's JRPG month, so like my wife made a little logo, and I've been getting everyone to just like commit to a bit, and it's just a gag. It was supposed to be just a total LARP of just like me.
A LARP. You're literally doing everything you would do in a JRPG month. You're playing JRPGs, aren't you?
I think it was supposed to. I think I get it now. I think he meant it was going to be like just little thing, like not a big deal, and then the gag is like, it got really big, and then now there's other gags with it. And I was like, I'm fully committed to a month, not as like what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what you're going with. Kind of like when we did what was it for the closing of the Xbox thing? We weren't going to make it that big, and then we kind of did Star Wars month because of the May the 4th, all that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of what I kind of don't think you say it's a gag. It's August for you is JRPG. Yeah, August is JRPG for you. Anyway, we have one more guest. Tyler, how's it going? How do you feel about this gag of
I still get the bit, but like, let's go.
See? I'm like, what is the bit here? It's like we're playing JRPGs talking about them. So for Carl, it's JRPG month. For me, it's Sexy Babe Summer over at Melee Games.
Hell yeah.
For me, it's just a Thursday.
Well, I kind of want it to be just a Thursday. I'm with Tyler here.
But yes, welcome everybody. Actually, I don't have my book, so I can't keep track of score. Oh, that's not good.
Wait, scoring us or scoring the games?
Well, that's the games, the top 5.
I thought he was gonna be like, so Carl gets like an 8 out of 10 for his decisions today.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
I mean, for his overall excitement, I'll give him a 10.
Oh my god.
Terrible host right now. There it is.
Is that the Death Note?
Is that the Death Note for real?
Are you writing our names down?
I don't think he gets that reference.
What did I get invited to? Wait, you don't know what a Death Note is?
He doesn't.
I don't watch JRPGs. Or I don't. I told you guys, I am running very, very fast. I've been gone since 7 o'clock this morning. I had a bunch of stuff to do. Then I had to teach these kids how to bowl. They don't listen. I want to throw them against the wall.
Kind of like a bowling ball?
Kind of.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you could beat them up, right? That's legal still.
Yeah, not really.
In certain parts of the country, maybe. I don't know.
It's the scoring of how we do all this stuff.
So Jason, the Death Note is in an anime called Death Note, and if you write a person's name in it, they die. So I thought that you were, because I saw a little black book. It was either the list of people you want to hang out with at night, or you were going to write our names down to murder us. I don't know.
Actually, no. It's a notebook that GameStop gave us, and it's completely black. So it's kind of funny, actually.
There you go.
There we go. I'm very professional.
New chair, Jason.
It is a new chair. I've got it. I've had it now for a month.
It looks good. I like it.
Appreciate it.
I'm here to talk about everything except for JRPGs. Apparently, I'm just like making random conversation.
That's what we do. I mean, that's pretty much what we do at this channel. So, yes. So, top 5 JRPGs. What did everybody get started with? For the first one, I'm gonna go around the corner before we start our top 5. Carl, what was your first typical like JRPG that you started with?
I guess we have to go all the way back to the wee days of me being a lad, and it was probably Pokemon would be the first JRPG I ever played.
Okay. All right. That's not bad. That's a pretty good one. That might be on a couple people's lists here, I think. Kay, what about you?
I guess I'm in a weird situation because I guess Super Mario RPG would have been around my first. I guess if we're counting Pokemon as well. I didn't count Pokemon as JRPG personally.
Some people do. It's one of those. It's one of those again. I think niche things. Like I always,
one, yeah.
I always make my list, and then I always just kind of go on just random lists. And I'm like, is this on one? And then I always have obviously my hot take one, so I always kind of see what it is. But that's where a lot of mine come from. Is like, oh, cool, I believe this is. But there was a lot of Pokemon I saw, so it works.
I mean, I kind of consider like Zelda almost a gateway for me. Like I was an anime fan and a like classic Nintendo fan at the same time, and then I was like, wait, what happens when you combine both of those? Oh, it could be a JRPG. So that's kind of like what my entry to like even exploring JRPGs was. Is like, I like anime, I like certain styles of combat. Let's slap them together and find games that do both. So,
and Tyler, how about you?
Does Quest 64 count?
I think Quest 64 does count. Yes,
it does count
because it's a toss up between. I mean, it's made in Japan. Like let's be frank there, but it's a toss up for me between that and Pokemon Yellow, probably. Like if I'm being honest, like what is today a traditional JRPG? Pokemon obviously would probably fit that a little bit more consistently, but I think whether or not which one made it into my hands first, it remains to be seen. Or at least remembered. I was 5.
That works. I was cleaning and I found this. That's why I knew this was right away. So it's kind of funny.
Nice. Yep. Terrible game.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, don't you hate on Brian. He's a Chad. He's great.
Also, in chat, I see you here, and then I forget that James would be on the chat. So I'm like looking around. I'm like, why are you talking in chat?
Why am I talking in there? I know.
Yeah.
That's why I made a separate moderator account because I actually used to use that account, and then people would get really confused and be like, "Is that you or James?" I'm like, "I'm just making a mod account."
Yeah, that's makes sense.
That.
But yeah, James is in chat, so I appreciate that. He's Pokemon counts, and this is not you, right?
None of that is me, no.
Yeah, I figured. Okay.
No.
Oh, we have Wait in chat now too.
I don't endorse any of James's opinions on JRPGs.
That's why I was confused.
Actually, no, he has a few that I might agree with. We'll see.
Okay.
But most of the time when he's talking about JRPGs, we have opposite opinions.
We already have the chat arguing whether or not Pokemon counts, and that makes me beg the question of what. And I heard you guys before we started this when I popped into the stream. Mm-hmm. What is the technical definition that you find of a JRPG? Like what fits all of the categories that makes that it versus a regular RPG is my question then before we actually start talking.
I guess first of all, like it would need to be developed by like a Japanese developer in most cases. I think there's some compromise there now because everything's so global that you can have people that live in North America that work so deeply in the roots of like JRPG type things. I mean, the other thing would be typically the setting is a little more traditional to Japan. There's certain tropes, so I think fitting into anime tropes is kind of important to a lot of JRPGs. But it really is kind of iffy now because everything just blends together. I mean, you wouldn't call like Morrowind or anything a JRPG, right? So it's like clearly we all know in our head that there's a difference between like an American role-playing game versus a Japanese one. It's just when you really get into the nitty-gritty, it's hard to really break it all down. But for the record, I don't consider Pokemon a JRPG. To me, that's a class of its own.
Okay.
I will kind of go off of what Kay's saying a little bit here. I think it comes down to who made it. I would also say that there's also the typical RPG elements usually have to be involved in some way, shape, or form, like a level up system, class system, or learning like certain moves. It doesn't necessarily have to be pure turn-based in terms of like an RPG, because the genre's kind of evolved now. You got action RPGs, you got strategic RPGs, and you got turn-based RPGs. So there's a lot of growth into it. Plus, there's so many games out there now that have RPG light elements in them that aren't considered RPGs. Like you could say Yakuza, or even games like Horizon and The Witcher. Well, The Witcher's an RPG, but I'm like, Horizon's not considered an RPG. It's more of an action game. God of War is not considered an RPG. It's more of an action game.
Well, everyone uses the term action adventure, right? And that's like 90% of games. You know what I mean? It's like categories just get so messy.
It gets blurry, especially because like there's RPG elements, but they're kind of like add-ons versus like in a real RPG, there's like in-depth system. Like you got to pick certain attacks, you got to figure out your right class, and then level ups, obviously, and all that stuff. RPGs have more depth versus you can have RPG light elements. And I will say that Pokemon is like your classic style of JRPG, because it is like pretty much a lot of people's first actual experience with an RPG, and it's pretty much maintained that formula to this very day, that it's still an RPG. And there's plenty of spin-offs of it. But
I think it's an RPG, but not necessarily a JRPG. The thing that like I guess makes it iffy for me is usually in a JRPG you have companions, and that's not exclusive to JRPGs, because obviously you have games like Mass Effect, right? Like that's not a JRPG either. But like with Pokemon, you're pretty much farming characters to be in your party. So you're not like building companions and like storytelling really through that. So to me, that's a big element with JRPGs.
I guess a little bit, but I would also counterpoint with like your companions are a 6-person team of Pokemon, and you don't always get to carry all your people around.
That's it.
What'd you say?
That just like say their name to you, like Pika Pika. Like it's not like anything in depth,
I mean, if you take it the way as like your character, I mean, let's I guess we're gonna go into our top 5 right now, because I'll start off here, because again it leads off in this. My number 5 is Pokemon Blue/Yellow. I'm gonna go, those are my 2 favorites, so I'm gonna go Blue. That's gonna be my number 5, Pokemon Blue. So I guess we can just continue the conversation right there. But I take it this way, as your companions are those where if you go through the towns and you pick up whatever ones, and then as you continue, those Pokemon are. So your very first one, I know a lot of people that actually I don't know a lot of people. A lot of people usually do pick up like their first starter. That's theirs from beginning to the end. Well, that's your companion. Like you build the relationship with that one, and then you kind of go through there. Then you have your rival that you want to beat that way. Then you have like your Elite 8 and everything like that, or Elite 6, 4. I don't know.
Elite 4.
Elite 4.
And a champion.
Elite 8, yes. Elite 8 is basketball. I'm kind of going crazy right now. Elite 4 and everything. But yeah, I think Pokemon Blue is just one of my favorites to go that way. Again, I kind of put a little handcuff on myself that I had to have beaten this JRPG to make my top 5 for this time, just because there's so many good ones that I could have just gone through every list and be like, oh yeah, this game is great. You don't have to, but that's just what I say. But I think Pokemon to me fits it just because of all things.
I kind of feel like Nintendo has classifications of their own. There's probably other games on here too that I should list as my top 5 that I went and like consciously said, no, I don't consider that in the same category as a traditional JRPG. And there are Pokemon games that might have made my list. And I mean, I opted out of it because I just don't feel like it fully encompasses the like save the world grand scale JRPG, in-depth characters, changing your weapons, your armor, all of that kind of stuff. That I think that's really where people's definitions become important, because like I can see why people think it is. It's just, to me, like Nintendo makes a lot of IPs that are in a classification of their own. You could to some degree even argue that Zelda's a JRPG.
I joke about that. I say Wind Waker's the best JRPG of all time.
Right? Like to me, that is that was my gateway JRPG in some senses, like A Link to the Past. And that's what made me think like, oh, are there anime versions of this? Right. So some people could argue that, but I'm like, no, Zelda is not a JRPG, even though it has every element possible that would make it one.
I just love what Kay's saying about JRPGs. And then she's like, I don't consider Pokemon this. I'm like, everything you just said is in Pokemon.
Well, no, you don't change your weapons. Like you don't have
well,
like
just not the
main
well,
character.
kind of. Your
You're-
weapons are Pokemon.
But you're also like you're controlling the trainer. You're not control. It's like you're a necromancer JRPG then, I guess, because you're not like actually controlling a singular character that levels up on their own, that gets like their own equipment and like buffs and all that stuff. You have like TMs or whatever they're called. I don't remember what they're called. The things that you upgrade on Pokemon or whatever.
I'm
and you
just a
can tweak
reverse
them moves.
necromancer. That's
yeah,
all it is.
It's really like necromancy in one way. That's how I would view it.
It's like
I
the
don't know.
necromancer grows stronger and summons more skeletons, but this is reverse. It's like the skeletons grow stronger to protect the necromancer.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I would absolutely play a necromancy RPG. Just saying.
Make it happen.
Ooh, I think I might actually have one of those. I have to look at my collection again.
All right. Carl, you want to give us your number 5?
All right, so I've had a lot of like hard debates in my life, and for honorable mentions, when we get to that, Jason, I just made a top 10, and then I just basically said the top 10, the 5 that didn't make this cut are going to be the honorable mentions. But
yeah, that's what I usually do normally. It's hard. Like I usually have like 20, and I'm like, okay, how do I kind of go off? That's how I did this one. But like, okay, which ones did I beat, and which ones can I go this way? So my honorable mentions will be ones that I didn't beat, but I have, and all that stuff.
Yeah, but I think the first one that I'll start off with is a tactical RPG, and this one was like really close, but I really loved it. It's an established Nintendo IP. Got to go with some good old Fire Emblem Awakening over here. The game that a lot of people say saved the Fire Emblem IP, that I've joked about many times before, that you could call it the eugenics simulator, obviously, where you have to basically listen to some people talk about it, and they talk about like making super children, where it's basically breeding them like dogs for special attributes.
Hey.
It is.
Just because I give every single character Aether doesn't mean I'm bad at the game. It just means I really like to win.
Exactly. It's a win. I want to win more. That's all it is. I just want all these riches. Honestly, I got into Fire Emblem a little late. One of my buddies convinced me to buy 3 houses, and I know Kay doesn't like 3 houses that much. But everywhere you got to start somewhere, so I really enjoyed 3 houses, and I started going back. And I started playing Fire Emblem Awakening, and I fell absolutely in love with this game. Just could not believe how much fun I was having with it. I beat it 2 times in a row because I went back, beat it, and then I was like, I got to go back and do it again. So I had to do it again, and I absolutely love this game. That's how you know it was like a game that's really stuck with me. And this was number 5, and this was like one of the hardest spots. I always kind of say every time we do one of these top 5s, that the hardest thing to do is pick number 5, because there's just a giant log jam here. And after a lot of consideration, I eliminated some just of little pretenses, because there's future games on this list that are in the series as well. Just a spoiler alert there. So pump some of those back. And then I was just, guess this is kind of more recency biased. I just have a much better remembrance of this game in many ways, shape, and form. I love the characters. I love the story. I absolutely can't wait to play this one again. In fact, I almost started playing this while I was waiting for you guys to show up, because that's how much I like this game.
It's a fantastic game. Fire Emblem Awakening, like you said, it did save the series. They were at a point where they thought that this, Fire Emblem was going to be over and that they weren't going to be able to finance any more of them. And so they put every stop possible into it. And this is actually the first game that convinced me to like full on purchase DLC and season passes. Like I was not somebody that did that before, but they added characters from other Fire Emblems that you could purchase. And I was like, yes, I'm fully in. So Fire Emblem Awakening was great. All the bonus content was great. There was extra maps, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a great choice, Carl, honestly.
I agree, because it was almost in mine. I love very big Fire Emblem fan, so I was happy to see. I'm happy to see that already.
Yeah, and like I said, through doing a lot of these JRPGs and going back and starting later in life with some of them, I gotta say, like, even though 3 houses, could be a little divisive with some fans, it's nice to know that at least a game that might have been subpar to some Fire Emblem fans was really a gateway to really go back and learn about all the other great Fire Emblem games that we have now too. And it got me into the franchise. I really like it, and now I'm a Fire Emblem elitist, and I really did not like the new one.
So without giving the list away with everybody, is this like the Fire Emblem? Because I like tactical RPGs, as we'll go down in a way. Is this like the best one of them?
No.
Or okay, then I'm not gonna say
my
it.
opinion. I mean, I'm
Don't give anything away.
50-50.
Okay.
But yeah, I would probably say it's a great entry point if that's something you're
Yeah.
looking for. Like I said, the barrier of entry is so low; it is very welcoming. Is it the best overall story to me? No, not even remotely close. Is it the most like as far as gameplay oriented? Not even that either.
I like Tyler. Tyler's cool.
Okay, I know you're gonna love Tyler. You guys have a lot of similar personality traits and a lot of similar game stuff. Like you guys are like perfect.
Like literally said what I was gonna say about Awakening. It's like, yeah, this is it's the best entry point. It's actually the one I recommend to people if they don't know what Fire Emblem is. Just the easiest one to get people on, and it explains things really well, and it eases you into the story and everything, so you're not like overwhelmed. And then like it's really a game that like you can choose as much as you want to put into it, and that's how much you'll get out of it, and you'll still get a good experience. But by no means is it the best game in the series.
Yeah. The big thing that Awakening offers that most older versions didn't was the fact that it has a mode that I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but like usually with a Fire Emblem game, it's like your characters die, they stay dead.
Permadeath.
Yeah,
Permadeath was yes, but the actual mode that they have, what it's called, like for standard mode or whatever, I cannot remember the name of it. But this one was the first one, I think, in America that was allowed to do that, because I think the sequel to Shadow Dragon, the DS game, did not had that, but this was the first one in America that had the option of allowing you to maintain your characters past like their deaths in a battle. So it was a situation where like the stakes were lower for new people, and you could still go back and play the permadeath mode and have the situation where you have to like be super tactical. Or if you want to be, lazy, you can just throw everything at the wall, and that's what that is. So, in a sense, like that's the beginner friendly aspect there. Is like, do you want low stakes so you can learn the game and then go back at it harder? There for it. But if you want to like start hard, obviously start earlier on in the series, back in like the you go GBA, SES.
So I never did. Well, I always do permadeath mode when I play Fire Emblem. So I never did that mode, the standard mode you're talking about. It is the first time in North America where it was like officially in there that you could click it and you can continue. Storyline wise, do those characters still hang out with you if they are gone in battle, and do they still get like the dialogue and stuff?
So ironically enough, the characters that are important to the story, and I'm just trying to make sure that I have the name of this correct. Like the like if so for Awakening, for the instance, Crom is one of your main characters. Lucina is one of your main characters. If they die in their specific thing, they don't die permanently. You just end the game.
Yeah. Like the lords
Right.
are the game over, but like
Yeah.
let's say a random like recruit, like if you
like
do they still get story, or do they like leave your
literally
campaign?
anyone else, as far as if they are not like pertinent to the story, like they're the Lord characters, they don't matter. Like,
Oh, so they just completely wipe.
They'll
and you don't
die.
get their
If
story
they don't
stuff.
have a
Okay.
cutscene, it doesn't matter. Like so like you say, your Crom, your Lucina, like if they don't have an actual cutscene in that game, then it doesn't matter whatsoever. Like they can die and it won't affect the game at all. The only thing it'll affect is your support conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there's some Fire Emblems where it's like, okay, obviously the Lords thing is always the thing. So if they die, you just have to restart the chapter. And then you have some characters that are like so important to the Lords that they'll still be around even if they're injured, and you'll still get some dialogue from them, but not as much as you would if they're still like around. And then there's some characters who are like, screw this, I'm going home. I'm not hanging out with you guys anymore. And you just don't hear from them again.
Oh, I guess it was just yeah. That's pretty much like what it pertains to. And obviously, if you because it's classic and casual. If you play casual mode, then it's just like nothing happened. Oh, I got kind of hurt. And they actually, if I remember right, it's been forever since I played it. And when I first started playing, that was what I played it on. The death animations or like death like quotes that they have are different if you're playing on casual or if you're playing on classic. So if you're on classic, they die. If you play on casual, they're just like, I'll see you back at camp.
I'm retreating. I got to run from the battle.
You might have to play a casual run just to see the dialogue changes. Damn.
If you just feel like being overpowered, that's what I would suggest.
If you just want to have fun and enjoy the story, then there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I don't need to be like Fernando and just want to die when I play Fire Emblem Awakening.
Oh, I only play this on
Engage.
Mode.
Sorry, Engage. Just watch Fernando's Engage, Fire Emblem Engage run, and you'll realize that you know what? Maybe sometimes I don't need this.
It's amazing. It's a great feeling.
Very cool. We'll go around clockwise. Yeah, Tyler, go ahead.
Okay. So my top 5. And this kind of brings me back to that question about what constitutes a JRPG. For me, I'm picking one that is not your turn-based tactical type thing. This is it's an action RPG that has a lot of the same tropes that you would expect from a JRPG. My top 5 in this situation is Xenoblade Chronicles.
Ooh, very nice pick.
I discovered that game well after the fact because I tried playing that game 3 different times. The first time I tried playing it was on the Wii, and I was too young at the time to even comprehend what was happening, and I found the combat system a little challenging. I picked it back up again when it came out for the 3DS, and I found the control scheme on that a little more difficult, but I was starting to figure it out. And then when Definitive Edition finally came out for the Switch, what was that, 2018, 2019, something like that, I finally buckled down and forced myself to play it and fell absolutely in love with the characters, the setting, the combat, like the situation of trying to get every single enemy into like a topple, smash, whatever they were, rotations. I know that the names changed in the later games, so if I'm getting those wrong, I apologize. It's been a while since I played. But just getting into that rhythm of like basically stopping the creatures from even doing anything to me was an absolute blast. I just love that little like, trying to figure that all out, setting up each character, even though it is an action RPG where stuff is moving around at the same time and there's no like turns or pause moments. You are able to, set up the game systems in such a way that basically just like streamlines the combat and is so much more fun because that puzzle is what's fun for me. And you have to go into each combat encounter with a little bit different setup, depending on what level you are in the game. And that's one of those cool games that has, when you're running through the overworld, like you could be level 13 and there's a level 150 thing over there that will absolutely demolish you if you get too close to it. So like that fear is always there. And I like I say, I adored that game. I adored the characters. And we joke often about JRPGs being like, you start small and then you fight God at the end. And that's literally what happens in that. Not to spoil too much. Like, let's be real. It's a trope. So
yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles has a really good story, but it has probably one of the worst type of combat systems. I call it MMO style combat systems.
Yeah, it's this weird thing where like everything auto attacks and you have to like hit buttons at a certain time, which it's the one game that I played that's like that. But I don't typically like MMOs, so I agree with you in that regard. But like I think the story and the way the systems work, I think was enough to push me through and actually get me to stick it out because. Like I say, it is a phenomenal story. You're absolutely right there.
Yeah, I absolutely do adore the story, and I love that everyone has like a weird hybrid Scottish-British accent just for no reason. That's what makes it even more enjoyable to me.
Yeah, that's I do agree with that because of the fact that one of the Western localizations that they went with a British like British voice cast, which they continue throughout the series, save for a few characters here and there are American, which is strange because if you look them up, they're also British, but they speak very, very like plain, like Midwestern English. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll buy into this.
Kind of fits. Hey, gotta get the sausage. Gotta get the sausage, Shark.
All right, before we go to Kay, I just want to say hi to or hail to Fork Around. He's in chat. So how's it going?
Hail, brother.
And then obviously dude's in chat because usually my co-host will be on Rumble to get dude, but he's got to come to my neck of the woods on my channel on YouTube. But how's it going?
He hates it here. We all know he hates it.
Oh,
on non-Rumble.
Yeah, I know he does, but unfortunately, he's got to be on my neck of the woods. One day, we'll make over.
This is how much he loves us. He showed up on the platform he hates the most. So thank you for being here, dude, because I get that.
Funny thing is, I probably could have actually broadcasted it for him on Rumble if I would have remembered to click that button. I'll ask him next time if I should do that for him. Anyway, Kay, what's your number 5?
My number 5 was one. I guess I agree that it's hardest to pick number 5 because once you get started, you're like, oh, I can't have a list without this. And then you're like, okay, I'm good. And number 5 is always like does this really beat out every other game that I'm just not going to really mention technically? Because honorable mentions, like they don't really count towards anything beyond you saying, I wish I could have had these, but I don't. So I decided on a number 5 and I'm feeling good about it. And there's a few reasons, but that is Valkyria Chronicles is what I went with. I think that Valkyria Chronicles is one of the most unique JRPGs that you can find. What I love about this is it blends together tactics and also just on the ground combat. So if you're somebody who likes gunplay combat, likes World War II, that kind of stuff, this game is freaking awesome. I'm just showing you guys the steelbook because I love the steelbook that I have.
I love that steelbook. I have the same one.
So that makes that didn't make my top 5, but it's my top 10.
It's so good.
Makes me question though. Do you if that being said, XCOM is technically then it's a very similar game style.
The XCOM I would consider American. So if it was like Japanese based, then yeah, I guess technically.
Yeah, I could see that argument, Kay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it is because you can put tactics games in this category in JRPG. But yeah, I just think that this game is really unique. You have like a great amount of roster that you can go through. You get to learn about all of those characters. I love the whole it's like I guess a stamina type system. I don't know what they call it in the game, but it's essentially like you can only take so many steps to go, and then you just shoot whatever's in range, and you have to duck. And I just like the hybrid. And there's another game that kind of gets close to that with me, which is like Mega Man Battle Network also has a very unique style. And those two games I just find super cool because it's like, how can you like stretch the creativity of what a standard game can be and like hybrid a bunch of different kinds of genres together. So I get the XCOM argument. I think it's just it's enough of a Japanese game that I still keep it as a JRPG.
100%. I just thought it's funny to me because when I started playing it the first time, I was like, oh, this is basically XCOM, but like with a little bit more character
with waifus.
To it. Well, you can say waifus, sure.
I call it XCOM with waifus, yeah.
I call it just fun, good old fun, especially because in that game they got like characters that have like special like quirks about them. Yes. So like some of your characters cannot like crouch because there's an old man and he can't do it because his knees hurt.
It's amazing. It's so cool.
So just to jump back, the movement things, they're called action points.
Right, yeah. And you have like a certain amount that you use.
Which is very similar to, and this is again a Western RPG, but like action point system, very similar to that was used in like Fallout. The original Fallout games. Which is where I was like, oh, I get it. Okay, I see what we're doing here.
Yeah, but like what Carl was saying too, with just like the different characters having their ailments and they all make sense to that character. Like you have a grizzled war vet, he's not going to move as fast as like the new recruit that just came in, but then that new recruit is not going to be as experienced. Maybe you have somebody who's like a better sniper, right? Because they've been in battles longer. So I really love just how well they simulated war. Like it really felt like you were directing people in war. And yeah, it beat out a lot of games that I love, but it deserves a mention because of how unique it is.
No, you're not wrong, especially because like It's just fun to have that more tactical setting. Obviously, you get like tanks, RPGs, machine guns, snipers, regular assault units like that. There's a lot of like different classes and different ways that you can set up your movements and everything too. Plus, you have to take into account like what's your squad strengths, what's their weaknesses. It is such a fun game that I'm very sad I didn't beat, because I got like halfway through the game when I was playing on my Switch, and I got bodied by a boss, and then I just left. But I forgot to save, so I had to restart the whole game from the beginning. And I was so crushed. I was like, I can't do this. It's on the to-do list to come back to after a certain point in time. It's been like 4 years. But I was so devastated by like losing that save. I was just like, I can't do this right now, boss. I'm tired.
Well, the great thing about that game too is it's a very pick up and play game. You don't necessarily need to invest yourself in the story, though the story is interesting enough. But it's one of those games that you can go back to like a year later and be like, oh, okay, I'm kind of good where I am, as long as you understand the combat. To answer James' like comment there in chat saying I could pretend it's Tanya in a Saga of Evil game. This is probably the closest thing you would get besides like that. There's like a Panzer tank game or something, which we're not going to talk about today. But yeah. This, I guess, would be the closest thing to a Tanya game. So there you go.
I would also like to say, Sega, you're jerks because you kept the best one of these games exclusive to Japan only on the PSP.
I mean, you can go about getting it in certain ways. Not that I condone it necessarily. But there are fan translations of that game out there.
Yeah, it's just that it sucks. Is like when you discover a series and you get like 1, 2, and 4, and it's like, well, where the hell's 3? It's just like it's just stupid marketing. Even if you could emulate it or whatever, it's still stupid. I mean, you're robbing like a fan base of like arguably what is considered the best game of the series too.
Yeah, exactly. Physical collectors, man, they get screwed a lot.
They do. All right. Well, let's go with Carl and number 4. Why not?
Okay, so number 4 here. We're gonna get my Pokemon game out of the way here, and my Pokemon game is Pokemon Platinum for the good old DS back in the day. I always have like a hard time trying to decide what is my favorite Pokemon game. I got it narrowed down to 3, and I decided to go with Pokemon Platinum because like Kay was saying, you got to have like a world-ending threat. You got to have like that big overarching villain. And Pokemon Platinum, to me, it features one of my favorite Pokemon on the cover here, Giratina. Giratina is like the Pokemon equivalent of Satan in this universe. He lives in the alternate parallel universe. He was banished there because he attacked Arceus. And in this game, it's basically a remake of like the superior version of, Diamond and Pearl. It has probably one of the toughest boss battles in Pokemon history with Cynthia. Everyone knows that one. She has probably one of the coolest teams out there. On top of that, too, it's really cool because like the whole point of this game is like the main villain wants to reset space and time and create his own new universe and destroy a universe. It like really just like stands out in a lot of ways of just being like such a different Pokemon story from like the first two, because like the first one, gold, silver, red, and blue, it's basically like a crime syndicate. It's just like, hey, oh, I'm Team Rocket, we're gonna steal your Pokemon for money. And then like in gold and silver is like, we want you back, Giovanni, please come notice us, senpai. And then you get into the third one when it gets into the whole heaven, earth, and water elements. But then you get into this one, and it's literally space and time, universal destruction, and everything else like that. It is so cool. I think this has probably some of the best Pokemon designs of the whole series for this region. I like that Sinnoh is kind of like, Hokkaido inspired, especially because Hokkaido is like the very northern island up there. A lot of like folklore and everything. And it's also introduced some of probably the more brutal Pokemon lore in the game series. Obviously, you had Darkrai, who would go into people's dreams and mess them up. You had like the Knowledge Trio of the Lake Spirits. And plus, it's kind of hard to really go forward with a game series when you have basically the equivalents of space, time, heaven, and hell, God and Satan in here. This is a lot of people like have criticisms of the Pokemon games afterwards because it really feels like you can't get much worse than like Pokemon Actual God, and then go downhill from that. Because like, what really tops God? You know?
Yeah. I can't say anything about Platinum. Tyler knows this
Gen
a
1
lot.
purist.
Yeah, I am.
Culture yourself, swine.
Nah, I'm with Jason. There's only
Thank
I
you.
go up to like what, maybe 3rd gen maximum, not even 2nd gen, really.
I think what one did you make me play during
made
COVID?
You play Crystal, which is Gen 2.
Yes, that's as far as I've gone.
Crystal's a good one.
Yeah. I did beat it. Yeah, I did beat it.
I mean,
I'm trying to remember.
It's that one, if I remember correctly, has such a crazy low difficulty that spikes at the very end after you've beaten all 16 badges.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did.
So it's kind of, I remember going on a family vacation to Florida and driving most of the day and on my Game Boy beating Gen 2's like main game, the first 8 badges in like under 8 hours, like with steamrolling a starter. So like, yes, I think that one has such a low like a low curve that's probably accurate, that you probably did enjoy it just because of the fact that you're like, this is fine.
Good. I'll have to. I think that might be on my 3DS, or yeah, that might be on my 3DS.
I might have left it on there when I did.
I think you did. Yeah.
For it.
Yeah. All right. We'll go. Keep going around. Tyler, what would be your number 4?
Okay, my number 4. And I have yet to find anyone who actually plays these games. For me, and there's a contention for it online a lot, but Trails of Cold Steel 4. I got into the Trail series during the lockdowns that we had a few years ago, because I was just looking for something to play. I remember Cold Steel 3 had a demo on the Switch that I was like, let's just try it. Let's see what happened. I'd always kind of like made fun of the title at GameStop for being so long and crazy. And then I sat down and played. I'm like, okay, I can see this. Let me go see where this started, because this is the 3rd one. And then I found out, oh, this is a, not at the time, 9 game series. Then I'm like, okay, well, let's go back and play this. So I started playing them all, and the combat was similar enough to like a strategy. Like there were some aspects of Final Fantasy to it that I really enjoyed, that made me feel really, really happy again for the first time, of like, oh my god, this is magic to me. And that was Trails of the Sky in the Sky for that. But Cold Steel 4 specifically is like the culmination of like 3 different arcs with a cast of characters that is massive and felt like an Avengers level like anime like team up thing, that was just like, I wanted all of these characters throughout the entire series that I've played to meet and interact, and I finally got it. And this was 3 years after I had started playing the series and had basically demolished the entirety of it, in what felt like breakneck pace. But I just couldn't put them down, and just the amount of like fun that came from seeing all of these different characters on screen together for the first time was one of those things that, like, I'm sure people who have been playing the series for a really long time were like just awestruck at. For me, it was just cool because it was an immense amount of payoff. And with those games too, like, I find the combat to be not super hard to wrap your head around, because like you have magic and you have physical skills, and they are like, some creatures are more weak to the physical skills and some are more weak to the magic skills. And then you have like a certain set of magic, like, hey, this element does more damage to these creatures, and then there's effects, and then you can build like your characters into like, hey, this is a really heavy like physical defense. Oh, I've got like an agility tank here. Like, there are so many things that game has that are like hard to pick apart, and it just expanded over the years of the games of playing. And for me, like, that one was just my high point. Like, it was like a very hard to top situation of like, this is the perfect story culmination, and the characters are all making, and I love where the combat's at. And one of the through lines for me, for all of these picks, is the music. The music of that game is something that I still listen to literally just in my free time. I will drive around listening to that soundtrack because it is just that good. And also, real quick, to answer a question in chat, somebody asked about my background. It is from Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a corner of Seventh Heaven.
You know, that's a good point you bring up there, Tyler. Pretty much every game I also picked too. I think Kay also brought this up as well. She was listening to some of this music too earlier today. I think that's what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was playing tons of music earlier. I was like, I'm ready to talk JRPGs.
Yeah,
blasting everything.
That's like one of the best things about all my JRPGs as well, is that there's a lot of music in these games that's memorable, both in terms of like an official OTS one with like lyric songs, and then just like the ambient sounds that they've done in a lot of my games as well.
Yeah, I could probably gush about like the company that makes Trails is Falcom, Neon Falcom, and they, all of the music for their games is just drop dead amazing. Like, if you ever find a Falcom game and you don't like the music, I'm shocked that you are a fan of the series usually.
Do they have like a certain expertise in their music? Like, for example, some are really good with like battle themes, some are really good with like, world map music. Like, is there a certain
I would, what's funny, like for me, the battle music is usually pretty top. There are a lot of specific like tracks for specific games that I would be like, I would pull out and be like, if you wanted like, what do you think the track that would be like, this is this track's game, or this game's track, like that would like kind of give you a feel for the whole thing, and they all have that. The battle music usually top. I find that overworld music can be hit or miss between games in some aspects, because they're pretty like good about like, hey, each town has its own theme. Some of them are better than others. Dungeon music is usually is pretty hype too. There's a track in Trails of Cold Steel 3 called Spiral of Erebos, which is just like one of my favorite music pieces of all time, probably, as far as to come out of an RPG.
You said it's in the third one? I'm gonna look it up after and listen.
Yeah, it's called Spiral of Erebos. It's like it's the end game's dungeon theme.
Got it.
And it's also plays at the very beginning of the game, when they're like doing like a title credit thing, and it's like, oh, this is hype as shit. And then it just, you don't get to hear it again until 70 hours in, and you're like, oh, it's back.
See, I would play it for everybody in chat and everything like that, but last time I did something like that, I got in trouble for it. So I'm gonna, if you guys are interested in it, thank you, Tyler, for giving us the title of it.
Hum it for us.
Sure.
Serenade us. Come on, Jason. What are you doing?
I don't know it. I don't know.
I will not be serenading. But
yeah. So this is one of the games that Tyler was trying to get me into, or the whole series he was trying to get me to. He had like a flash drive, or did you give them to me?
You might have a GOG download of the first three games, because I feel like that's just old enough for you, because it's like circa 2003 to 2005 that those games came out. But like, again, it's one of those series where I think the only person I've actually been able to turn onto this series has been my little sister, and we have similar interests. Sorry. And she's playing through Sky right now, the Sky trilogy, and it's one of those things where like it's a long series. There's now, I think, going on 12 games, with the 13th one coming out in September in Japan, at least. So like, I don't expect anyone to get into this series. It's nice when somebody does, and I can talk to them about it.
One warning I would put out for this series: it's very grindy. The first two games, like incredibly grindy. That's the biggest complaint I hear about this series in particular.
I didn't find it too hard to grind. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a game that if you want to hit all your bases, you might want to play with the walkthrough. but I've done that less and less as the series goes on. But there is a certain level of like I would say I'd call it magic to the first like 2 games. The story is just very touching and sweet, and it just when the music plays the first time you're in the first city, you're like, this is really pleasant, and it was just one of those things that just carried on. You had something else you were saying, Kay? I'm sorry.
No, I was pretty much asking kind of a similar question, like how grindy is it? And I was also curious because you said that there was like a trilogy, but then there's 12 of them. So
Okay.
is this more like Final Fantasy or is this more like Fire Emblem?
No. Okay, so neither, kind of.
You know what I mean by that, right? Like
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is usually isolated, except for
Yeah.
they have their
No,
dashes.
I
But
mean-
then Fire Emblem can have like some together and some not.
Yeah, this is
Would
more
you
of
say
that
like
come
Tales? Not like there's Trials, and then like this would be like a Tales kind of thing. It's like
No. Those are also kind of independent.
Well, Tales is very independent, yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I mean. A lot of Trials games are kind of all independent.
these are so I apologize for the confusion.
No.
It is a whole series that is all one story from top to bottom. Told
Oh,
over
okay.
12 games
Okay.
at present. They are split up into arcs. So your first 3 games are Trails in the Sky, 1, 2, and 3. Well, it's first chapter, second chapter, and then the third is what they're called. And then you have 2 in a duology that take place in a different part of the country. That is called, or not country, it's a continent, I guess is what it's a different country that it takes place in. Those are Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. And then from there, you go to a different section of the continent called Erebonia, which is where the one I mentioned takes place. That's Trails of Cold Steel 1 through 4. There's another game in between and after that called Trails to Reverie, which is kind of this like intermingling game of 3 different areas with a bunch of different characters from all the other stuff that kind of leads into the next arc. And then the current ones that just released in July in America for the first one was Trails Through Daybreak.
Yep.
And the next one for that comes out in the early months of 2025.
Okay, so this sounds like a series that benefits from actually starting at the beginning, whereas
It
some others you can jump in.
It
wherever.
definitely does. And that's why I don't expect anyone to ever get into it. Because it does, like I say, it's a lot to ask somebody, hey, here's a game that's coming out. It looks really cool. Go back and play 12 games. Like, it's a lot to ask, especially if a 70-hour RPG. I just had the benefit of picking it up during a time that I was doing very little. So
that's why I told you, yeah, I'm not probably gonna do it.
Never.
You even said you were gonna give me all the games. I'm like, I don't.
I told you when like, here you have them. You can play them. If you get into them, that's cool. I think you would like at least those first 3, just because it very much you have more of that old school chic to you, and I feel like you would have liked it. But again, it's a lot to ask. But the cool thing that I like to explain when I do get to talk about it is like when I say it's Final Fantasy, but if everything was connected is what I usually describe it as, because of just the way the games end up being. It's a little more modern in its takes, but the story so far, I think, has 5 years in game have passed from the beginning of the first game to the end of the most recent game, and a lot happens. So it's one of those things where like you can jump in at certain points and be okay as long as you start at the beginning of an arc, is what I usually tell people. Whether you bounce back or bounce forward, like that's up to you. But like, yes, there are some aspects of it that are very hard to get into if you haven't played for however many years. And that's actually, if you ever look up this Falcom, like the subreddit that has all of these stuff, like that's usually a contentious point from the online community is where do you start the series at? And people have started at the start of the Cold Steel series. With the most recent game Daybreak that has come out, like they've started there and felt fine, and then gone back and played the other ones because they're waiting for a new release localized. Or you're like me who just has to go back and find the evolution of things, and I go back and play Sky. I did the same thing with Valkyria Chronicles. I played 4, got maybe 2 chapters into that, and was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and play the first game. Like that's just, I am that person who has to have all of that stuff, but I'm willing to put the hours in. I don't blame anybody for not, but it is. I would just say if you're into 60, 70 hour RPGs and you have a lot of time to kill, this is one of those series that you could do it with.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. On that aspect, we'll go to Kay. What would be your number 4?
Ooh, this is where the fun begins for me. Valkyria Chronicles was like, I love this game, but it wasn't as exciting as the other 4 to me. So I'm very excited for this one. My number 4 is Tales of Berseria. Uh, I think this is one of the best Tales games to exist. It is a pirate Tales game, which makes it extra high up on my list because I just love pirates as well. But it's a very interesting plot. It's not really spoiling because it's within the first 2 minutes that you learn this. But essentially, this character is a very innocent character. There's this battle going on between good and evil, which I mean is really in every JRPG ever. But there's this disease that's going around that turns people into demons, essentially. And so her brother and her are in an area where essentially they could get contaminated. She dies and her brother dies within the first 5 minutes, and then it just gets super dark. So they set the story as super cheerful for 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's oh, this is stuff's going down. And what's great about this game is it's very much church versus demons, and you've got this group of extremists that go around and they're it doesn't matter how innocent the person is or anything, we're gonna eradicate all the demons. And it's kind of that storytelling of well, what if you have a demon or a person that is good that got infected by this and is still wanting to save the world? What do you do? And you play the role of that kind of morally ambiguous character. But otherwise, if you've played any other Tales games before, it's got the same structure as the whole save the world. You've got your usual companions, you've got the more action-based combat, so you're not doing turn-based. Although in Tales games you can slightly make them turn-based, not to the same traditional sense as maybe a Final Fantasy, but you can make them slightly more turn-based. They give you that flexibility. But yeah, I think the character design in this is excellent. This the person who designed the main character, Velvet, unfortunately passed, but she's known as the number one designer for Tales games. And I think this is the best design she's ever made. So if you are really into the designs of JRPGs and you like the character designs, this is a great game to start with. The story is self-contained for the most part, so you don't really need to go into other games. The thing with Tales is that they can hint to other games with each other, but they're not necessarily all related. So there are sometimes references you can find very loosely, but yeah, I just think this game is excellent. I love the combat system. It's just a perfect template, and the pirate setting just makes it so much better to me.
Doesn't that one have a direct connection to Tales of Zestiria, if that's how you say it?
Yes, it does. You don't really need to play Zestiria, but it is technically a direct correlation. So I didn't like
Okay.
Zestiria. There's a certain branch in Tales games. When you get to Exilia and Exilia 2, it really changed the combat systems. And you kind of get into more of this I don't know how to compare it better than it almost feels a little more World of Warcraft, way more open mission based and less focused compared to the older games. And so Exilia and Exilia 2 is where that branch really happened. And Zestiria goes to me a little bit more in that direction. I'm not a fan of that direction. I like this more classic approach. So yeah, you can play both, but I didn't even bother with the other one. It doesn't matter to me.
I've tried playing Tales is one of those series that I would really like to get into. I have both Zestiria and Berseria downloaded at some point. I think I got them on sale once upon a time. Vesperia, I've heard really good things for, and I have not been able to get into it because the combat I find a little chunky to me, and maybe it's just because I don't know, slow when it comes to action RPGs, and it kind of feels kind of like one of those. But if you say it's one of those series that I would absolutely love to, and I love the pirate thing that you described. That sounds very intriguing to me. So
It's so cool. It's demons and pirates, and you've got a holy church, and they go on crusades. It's like witch hunts almost. It's super, super cool. I will just say to you, if you are looking to get into Tales games, if you find Vesperia chunky, you might not like the series at all.
Okay.
I'll just
I've
give you that advice. Like, it
I
might not
have
be for you.
I have Arise too, and I've played probably 10 hours of that, and it feels as I have the same problem where I'm like, I'm gonna try and pick this up again. Okay, no. Yeah, try it again. No, I'm like, I'm just waiting for it to click, and it hasn't. So maybe I put that on the back burner indefinitely then.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I talked about that branch earlier with Exilia. Arise fits in that new like kind of formula that feels a lot more open world and just side mission based, and you don't really feel concentrated on anything.
Right.
Very MMO esque. So if you like that kind of style game, then I would try Arise, but expect to like dump like a few hundred hours into that game. Versus Vesperia, which is a lot more of a concentrated experience, and that's like the old school style, and the combat is very much at the peak of Tales games. So for me, if you say to me you don't like Vesperia, I think you won't like Tales games personally. But I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe you just, wrong time,
I'm
wrong place or
just
whatever.
waiting for one to grab me. I usually give something a more than a fair shake before I call it quits. And it's, like I say, the stories intrigue me, and that's largely the reason why I pull in. Like I hear good things about a lot of the stories and the characters, and I'll push through crap gameplay. Not saying that it's crap, but like for me at least, gameplay that I don't trust if I can get a good story out of it.
Well, I would say Vesperia starts out a bit slower too. So if you're looking for a gameplay to actually like pull you in right away and like storytelling, I should say, I would say Berseria would be the better place for you to start because the story pulls you in within 5 minutes. It
Okay.
get like the stakes go up super quickly. So maybe try that because the combat is super similar between the two. But I will tell you right now, I despise Arise as much as I hate Three Houses. I think that ruins Fire Emblem with Three Houses, and I think Arise ruins Tales. So I will never advocate for either. But there are a lot of people that like that direction. So if
We'll
you're not
have
into the traditional way, that
we'll
is the way
have
to
to
go.
circle back to the Three House hate. I'm interested in that.
Okay.
Well, I will say this about Tales, just like with Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. There's always ones that you like, and there's always ones that you hate. It kind of is like the double-edged sword when you have games that don't technically all follow the same story.
I agree on that one. I'll agree on that one. All right, so I guess that comes to my number 4. Usually my number 4 is like my hot take, but not on this category. So that's gonna hopefully not bum people up, but it's gonna get a lot of less hate from me, I guess. But my number 4, I guess, starts my my Square love, Square everything, everything like that. But my number 4 is I'm putting without that is I'm
I
putting
knew
Tactics.
it. I knew it.
There we go.
I knew it. I know you too well.
Yeah. Yeah, we're putting Final Fantasy Tactics for number 4 for me. For some odd reason, I'm not the biggest fan of like knights and all that kind of stuff. I love for movies wise, I love Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I love Final Fantasy Tactics. Those are like my two, like Knights the Round and all that kind of stuff, which is weird. But I love the job system in this game. I love how they use these characters to go through the wars and everything like that they have. I have my my PSP version down there that they do that too, but the Lion War, the everything like that, I absolutely love with what they did. I really, man, it's been forever too. Let's see. I wrote a little bit down so I can just remember some of the plot stuff, so I don't go through and don't ruin stuff. So if I do misspeak on something, please correct me if you did play this or anything like that, especially in chat. But yeah, like there's the shoot, where did I write down? But story 50 years war and all that stuff. I know I'm not selling this game very well, so please help me.
I can't help with Tactics too much.
No,
I don't have enough
Tactics is hard.
experience with it, and that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing, is like it seems like a game that I should also love as like a big, tactics type person, but it kind of escaped me, honestly. Like I played a little bit of it and I was kind of like, I prefer other Final Fantasies.
I own it.
I don't know.
I've probably played it once when I was little, and I just left it on the shelf.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not nearly as intriguing as the other games, I find.
So
I-
don't treat it as a Final Fantasy game. That is my best way to describe it. Final this one is just what was it? There was the Tactics Ogre game, I think it was called.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tactics Ogre.
Yeah. If you like that one, if you like that game, then you'll love this game. Um Again, the job system I think is what to me Wait says A2 is a better game. Yeah, probably. I don't think I beat that one. Uh like I beat this version of it. Like I said, I handicapped myself with the games that I personally beat to put into my list. But yeah, like I absolutely can go through the job system and then just kind of like level up on the way the game is played and then kind of move things around and have like synergies and all that kind of stuff that way. I think that's why I probably put this one or I spent so much time in this one compared to other ones over other games. But yeah, that's for me. That's what it is. But again, it's an easy play if you like tactics role playing games with stuff. So that's for me.
Is it a small experience? Do you remember like how long it took you to beat?
It's not very long.
Yeah, it didn't come across to me as like I don't know. Usually when I think of Final Fantasy, I think like you're gonna be there for like 60 hours and you're gonna be learning about every little character and every little thing, which I love about Final Fantasy.
Mhm.
But this game always came across to me as like just super snappy, quick, go through your like sections and you're done.
Mhm. No,
And
exactly. It's a great story based game with characters, but a tactics puzzle like experience in a way.
okay.
And if you have a PSP, I would play that version because I think that one's even quicker and you can take it with you.
How's the soundtrack in that one?
Oh, great. I mean, for me, I can't. The beginning of the game is great, and then again, for all JRPGs, for me, like if they're on my list, they're great soundtracks. What was my favorite song?
There it is. We're back to that music thing.
Yeah. You know, like I said, you'll absolutely love it. You'll absolutely love it.
And that's kind of a plus, though, in my opinion, to have a technically quote unquote JRPG that doesn't take you 100 hours to complete. Sometimes you need those, I like to call it the palate cleansers, because at the beginning of the year, I was like hardcore into JRPGs, and I'm just like, I need something to just break it up here a little bit. I can't invest 2 months into just 2 games, guys.
I agree. I 100% agree. Total. I'm trying to figure out exactly the total playtime. So,
How long to beat has it at 40 hours for just the main story?
Yeah.
Which I'm
Oh, that's
sure
not
the
too
way you're
bad.
describing it, it's probably a snappy 40 hours where you're like, oh, I've played a lot of this.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Well, that would be number 4. So I guess Tyler, how about your number 3?
Okay. So my number 3, we're gonna kind of push back again to the 3DS. While we already talked about FE Awakening, for me, my number 3 is Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. As a person who got into Fire Emblem much around the time that Awakening came out, I think Fates was probably on the edge when I finally picked up one of them, and I was just looking for something new to play. And I got into the series when Echoes came out. It was a situation where I was like, oh, okay, I see what this is about now as far as story and on top of gameplay. It's a remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, which is FE2, which was technically considered a spin-off way back when of the first Fire Emblem game. But the gameplay shifts a little bit because you have like certain weapons have skills, and you level up the weapon. You don't necessarily level up the the skills you have as much as you did in like Awakening. Like you still have classes and you still have like the typical fare of like leveling up the character specifically. But like they changed some of the core aspects to be more akin to what felt like a little bit of an older game, and it's a little bit harder in the late game, I think, in my opinion, than Awakening was. But besides that, like the story of Shadows of Valentia is amazing, and as someone who didn't get to play Gaiden when it came out, and I think ever really actually released in America anyway, it is by none one of the best Fire Emblem games ever, and it's about you have two characters who grew up together, are like shipped to different sides of the world to or the country to fight a war against each other, as like the leaders of these things, and one of them ends up being like he leaves home. He's basically a farm boy that leaves home to be like a freedom fighter type situation, and ends up at the front, and then like without getting into heavy spoilers for the game, you find out that there's a lot more going on there than originally you would think. But obviously, much like traditional Fire Emblem games, there is a dragon involved and all this other stuff. And it's just one of my favorite stories, I think, of any media as far as like video games are concerned. Topped with the buttery creaminess of a Fire Emblem game that has the tactic RPG that I love. So that's my number 4. I recommend anyone play it if they're a Fire Emblem fan.
Oh, Shadows of Valencia is great. And I think that's Celica and Alm, right? It's
Correct.
Not like my favorite out of the Fire Emblems, but I did like it quite a bit. I remember it being kind of similar to Sacred Stones in storytelling, almost.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Especially with your two protagonists. Except they're not twins in this.
It's the very different point of view type storytelling, but you're like learning the story about each main character and seeing like why they're doing certain things. I'm trying not to spoil either because I get what you're saying. Yeah, and I know it's a bigger spoiler, but
it's one of those cool things where like certain things you do sort of affect the story of the other one. And now granted, it's not like this is a branching path where if you choose to do something as one character, you don't get to do something as another, but their stories intertwine a little bit more before they get to the end of it. But yeah, you get two very different consistent parties in this game that you kind of bounce back and forth through. So you have like different dynamics for different for different characters and different sections of the games.
Yeah, no, great choice, honestly. I've played the like original one. I own the 3DS remake or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see like how much they spruced it up. I assume they've added like more beautiful cutscenes and everything to this now, and made the characters pop more.
It's the first fully voice acted Fire Emblem game.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. So that in itself is worth it then. Did they add any extra modes or anything? Do you know? Or
so they tradition. I mean, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've played Gaiden. It is usually there's only like you have your base class, your next class, and then maybe an advanced class. With DLC for Echoes, they did add like an extended class.
Okay, so they kind of did the thing because like Fire Emblem progresses naturally with its combat system. So the deeper you get into Fire Emblem, the more complex the combat system gets. And then you get to Three Houses, which I despise, where it's just a completely different combat system. But I'll get into that later, I'm sure. But yeah. So with this, because it's a remake of an older one, did they add the like more modern combat to it based on when it came out?
Yes, kind of. Okay, because you'll have your specific like, hey, this promotes from this class, this promotes from this class. There's no with that game, there's no real delineation. Like you can't choose like, hey, I'm a hero, I can do to these two, these two other options or whatever. It's just 1-to-1-to-1. And I think the villagers are the only ones that you can kind of choose what to do with in that one. But they did add the thing I was talking about is called overclassing, which adds an extra like an extra promotion to every like end game class, which that's where I would argue that like the game can get a little grindy, because like I was trying to get all of those things done to get all of my promotes up to their overclass, and it's like the XP gains are stupid, and then the section that you're supposed to play through, because when they added those overclasses in, like I said, it was kind of through a DLC. It actually is a tie-in to Awakening, story wise, because technically speaking, Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, or the first, whatever you want to call FE1,
Yeah.
and Gaiden / Shadows of Valentia take place in the same like universe, continent type thing. Like it's not a
Yeah.
different like setting.
Marth is the character that strikes back several times.
Yeah, definitely. And so this was supposed to be like some sort of like Easter egg to that. And like one of the final bosses for the DLC, again, this is a 12-year-old game. I'm okay with spoiling this one. It's a tie-in to Awakening, basically. But you have to like that's where the difficulty curve really shoots up, and you're like, okay, well now I have to get to level 30, but I'm getting like 2 XP per thing I kill, and if I go towards the boss area, I'm getting blasted. So, you know, I never got to finish it, but like the overclassing were really cool. The ideas are really awesome, but it's just hard.
Very
All right.
interesting.
Before we get into K, I want to get in the chat. There's a couple things in here that made me laugh. James always comes through with this, but yeah, pressure is kind of bubbling. Also, I want to say hi to my co-host is in here, Nerdinio. How's it going tonight?
I was actually looking up how many FE games there are now when he asked that.
They stopped numbering them after a certain point. So,
well, if you go back and look, they don't actually have numbers; they just have the titles. But you can kind of infer.
Like you can get, because they don't really have numbers on them, but I think like what Radiant Dawn is like 10 or something. So
Correct.
Then there's probably 15 Fire Emblems. I'm just guessing off the top of my head.
15, 16. There are 17 mainline entries and several spin-offs.
I do not count the Warriors games, if that's what you're going to say.
That's no, I'm not counting those. Those are the spin-offs. There are
how many of those are also remakes of like a game too?
2.
And so 2 of those remakes, and it's 15. Let's go. I guessed correctly.
So Shadow Dragon.
Oh no, but then Fates is branched into several, right?
No, yeah, it's like they did the Pokemon thing with Fates.
So then that almost doesn't count. It counts
Fates
as one.
Counts. I count all 3 of those routes as one game. Like
yes, yeah, exactly.
So technically it's 3. There are 3 because Mystery of the Emblem got re-released as New Mystery of Emblem. The first one, Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, which is FE1, was re-released as Shadow Dragon for the DS. And then Echoes is obviously FE2. So technically 14 new games with 3 remakes.
All right. So, Kay, what would be your number 3?
My number 3 is the only one I don't have physically with me right now, and there is a reason for that. Because if you try to buy this damn game physical, it's insanely expensive. So I've given up on that route on getting it back in my collection. My number 3 is Earthbound. Earthbound is just... It's such an excellent game to make an introductory game for people as a JRPG. What I love about it is it feels so homely and like relatable, and all of the items in the game feel very like realistic to the tangible world. All of the like there's things that go on in this game that are obviously wacky and crazy, but at the very core of the game, you're eating a burger and you're swinging a baseball bat. Like it very much can like relate to somebody if they're young and playing this game. And I love the combat system in this. That iconic combat system forever like changed gaming. I mean, Undertale took that whole system and made their own game with it that's also wildly successful, that people don't even know what Earthbound is, and they just love Undertale for being Undertale. Excellent soundtrack. I mean, I feel like I'm almost preaching to the choir because I think probably everyone here has played Earthbound or at least like knows about it.
I know about it, but never played it. I have such a terrible horror story about Earthbound.
Wait, what? Whoa, okay, wait. So Carl, you've never played it, but you've heard of it, right?
Of course, I've played as Ness.
What is your horror story, Jason?
So, okay. It's not nothing bad about the game. I love the game. So back in the day at I don't know if Tyler will remember this place or not, but there used to be a video store in our town called Sandwich Video.
Oh, sorry. I know Video Villa, which means
we all know Video Villa. Oh, yeah, duh.
Much older than me.
Yeah.
Who's we all know? I don't know this.
What do you mean?
Video Villa or whatever you were saying?
Just in our hometown of what it is.
I know, I was just joking.
Yeah. There was a video store and it was going out of business, or it was selling its old Super Nintendo collection, right? And it had the box, everything with it, and it was for sale for $10.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, hey, mom, can you buy this for me? Usually she says yes when it comes to like games. And she said no. And I'm like, all right. So I put it back. And I don't own the game because of that reason. And I mean, I could buy it, but I feel so bad that I could have had the game for $10.
For $10, yeah, exactly.
But at the time, you probably didn't realize how much it would be worth eventually.
Oh, no, not at all. But still, like, I mean, I like the game. And I'm like, oh, cool. I like this game. Big box, all this stuff together, $10. Awesome. Oh, dude. There it is. Dude's got one almost like that, but not a video store. But yeah.
Yeah, I ended up getting I think it was on the Wii U Virtual Console as well, and I have the SNES Classic, so I have like so many ways to play the game.
Right.
But yeah, I wish I had that, like, and the guide as well. I really wanted to have the guide, and I've been so tempted, but I'm like, I just can't justify the price for a game that I know so inside out by now that I'm not really gonna visit again, just because it won't bring me the same excitement, right? And I want to try new stuff. So it's just hard. I'm a big physical game collector, but it's just one of those ones that's hard to pull the trigger on because it's like I have this so many places in my house already, you know?
Oh.
I just looked up a collect in box.
Like, it's expensive, like $500 or something crazy.
Oh, no.
500.
Oh, you're looking at like a sealed version? Or
I
like
mean, no. This isn't sealed, but this is collect in box with everything for 15 grand.
That's
what?
insane.
No.
I'm looking at it on eBay right now.
Complete them. Well, hold on.
Price charting. Look it up on price charting. Never trust the eBay.
Charting that because
what the hell is wrong with you? Rookie mistake.
Okay, I'm talking in Canadian, but like Cart, and I looked at this maybe like a year ago, so I'm sure things have gone crazy since then. But Cart, I remember being 100 to 150 Canadian, and then with the guide, I remember it being anywhere from $350 to $500, and then maybe sealed an extra 100 to 200 on top.
I'm
just $1,764 for a complete.
That's
I'm seeing a lot of various prices from anywhere from $300 to $700.
Yeah, so it was like $300 for loose. Complete is averaging around like $1,700, and then for new, like sealed, is like $5,000.
Yeah, this is why I don't collect.
Yeah, that's not worth it at all.
Very often.
Wow.
Yeah, dude's saying complete in box is $1,700. That's crazy.
Yeah, I always check.
And that's American, so yeah, for me that's like $3,000 or something stupid.
Yeah, no, that game. Yeah, that game. Yeah, I wish I owned it physically. I should, but I wish I did.
The closest story to that I have, it's not about Earthbound, but it's a quick non sequitur, is I was working with Jason at GameStop once upon a time, and I believe I went to pick up lunch, and I came back, and Jason goes, "You owe me lunch," because some lady had come in and brought, was going to sell like a bunch of old PlayStation games, and he found like sealed copies of like I think Lunar 2, Eternal Blue, and then like.
You mean this game?
Yeah, like that. So like that, just stuff that he just basically a bucket of stuff like that. Not just this one game. Like it was at least $1,500 that just like walked into the store, and he goes, "You can have these." And he gives me some Final Fantasies that I didn't have, and I'm like, "Okay, cool. I can appreciate that you're giving me these," but like it was just like I was gone for maybe 20 minutes, and that happens, and I'm like, okay, I see how this is, because like I would have dropped my pants right there and been like, I just can't fathom what's happening. Oh man,
yeah, that happens. All right.
Yeah, that's Earthbound is definitely more expensive than the most expensive game I own. So there you go.
And it's like not a game that's like stellar to have on your shelf. I don't know. It seems insane to me.
I agree. I except if you have the complete box, I think the box just in general, like, yes, it's not worth that, but it's a fun showpiece. It is a fun showpiece.
It is, and I hope to play this one day on my 3DS. I know I have it downloaded on either my Wii U or my 3DS somewhere. It's on the to-do list. I think we can all kind of agree here. When you are also a fan of other gaming genres, there's no way in hell you could have played them all unless you only play said genre.
I agree with that. All right, so I guess this will go to my number 3. This is my favorite multiplayer JRPG. And sometimes that's kind of like a what? There's multiplayer JRPGs in a way. And I would love to actually play this with I played this with my brother a little bit, but he absolutely hates this style of like he doesn't like JRPGs. He's more if it's not shooting anything or anything, he doesn't want to play it. But mine is Secret of Mana.
Oh, nice.
Oh, look at
Great
that.
choice.
I absolutely love this game. It is a great, just simple, fun game. It's action based, and then who would know that this would be the style of gameplay almost that would kind of take over into my favorite JRPG that is a kind of a hint, nudge, nudge for future down the line. But yeah, this game is great. I would absolutely love to play this with all three people playing as characters. Because I think that would be kind of fun to just kind of revisit this story and revisit this game with people. But yeah,
You got it, dude. Just name the place. Let's do it.
hey,
I could drive down and visit.
we can do it. Technically, I have Parsec. We can just do it right on a computer. So yeah, I mean, if anybody is hit like on Discord, hit me up because I think that would be a fun little playthrough to play through. So, but yeah,
I have a
That would be-
question. The PS4 version that came out, is that a 1-to-1 port, or did they remaster the game, or is it just like something entirely that's just different that took over the title?
no,
You know?
Isn't it multiple games?
Well, because there's a Secret of Mana PS4 game, and I don't
Yes,
know. I still have mine sealed. I don't even know if that's like a different version of the game or if it's what it is.
It came to Switch too. I know what you're talking about because I
Yeah,
have that.
yeah, I
Here,
have this-
let me go look real quick while you
Yep.
guys
I
talk.
think I have mine here. Let me see.
yeah. I think it's just like they updated the graphics a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out because I
I'm
haven't.
trying to remember now too. I wish I had my Switch down here and I could
Yeah.
easily tell you.
We're talking.
Well, because I was curious, like, okay, if that's the case, would there be like online that you could just play on PS4, like PlayStation
So
Plus?
the PS4 is a full 3D remake.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so it's the same
That-
game. It's just 3D remake. Got it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just didn't want to be wrong. I'm like, wait, I know it's 3D,
But
but
that's
I'm
also
trying to
the
remember.
second remake they've done for the Mana series, right? Because they did
Well,
Trials
I
of
have-
Mana too, right?
Well, I
Trial of
also
Mana's a
have
sequel.
I
Right,
also
but
have
they-
the one for the Game Boy Advance.
Which one's Sword of Mana?
Yes.
Yeah, I love Sword of Mana. It's a
and
great
there's
game.
Visions is coming out soon.
Yes, end of August.
Yeah. There'll be another one out. But yeah, first time out, yes, Secret just 6 out. Like, yeah, I just absolutely love this one. So, Carl, what would you can end us on our number 3, top of the top 5. What would be your number 3?
So this one of the fellow panelists was on a spoiler cast for me, and I believe I said to them on there that this made my top 10 list actually for games overall now. So we got to go with Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. I played the remake, but I can't wait to go back and play the other one. This game, obviously, I think I've said this before. I was not really a big Nintendo kid growing up. And a lot of these games I've kind of been slowly rediscovering over these last like 10 years, especially with me being out of the TCG realm. So when this one came out, I know Kay really sold me on it. I know that Mr. Angry Canadian, if he's still listening, really sold me on it. And obviously it has a very big pedigree in gaming history because it's considered like one of the best GameCube games probably of all time for a lot of people as well. And it has such a aura around it. So then when this finally came out, I was like, okay, I'm going to finally get to play it. And I absolutely fell in love with this game. Just like everything about it. The music, the sound, it's just really well done, especially when you're in Rogue Town. That theme, just walking around Rogue Town, just like haunts my dreams. It is so catchy and it just gets stuck in your head. The overall charm in this game is just absolutely amazing. I never played a Paper Mario game until this one, and I basically now want to go back and play the N64 one, especially because there's a little N64 Easter egg in there too that we pointed out as well. I love the combat system. I love the little rogues gallery that you got with like Goombella and Koops, who you just want to root for Koops, and it had one of the actually hardest like final boss fights that I've had to deal with in quite some time too. I'm a seasoned JRPG vet at this point, so a lot of times I'm doing the meme of like the world's ending, but I gotta drop off some milk first. It's just over leveling my characters, and this one just couldn't help it. I just was like getting bodied. I was like, why am I getting so bodied by this? I'm not used to it. It's super charming. It has such a great story, great cast of characters, and it's surprisingly deep. A lot of times too, when I think of Mario, I think of just like goofy, wacky, silly like platformers. And now that I've been like more exposed to like the JRPG side of Nintendo, obviously with like games like Mario and Luigi, Brothership's coming out this year. I've been playing those and been playing this. Like it really helped open my eyes, not only from my friends, like just like getting so hyped about it, but it's just like this made me see the light of like, oh, there's a lot more to play from these Mario spin-off games. And I absolutely love the humor. I love the story in the Paper Mario world a lot more now just because of this. So came out of nowhere, and that's like the best part of why I had to put this on number 3, because I'm like, this made my top 10. It's just like it captured me so off guard this year that it's just like, well, if I'm putting this in my top 10 and the other 2 games I'm about to talk about after this are above it in my top 10, I kind of have to put this here, right?
Yeah.
Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, fantastic game. For me, a rare 10 out of 10 game. There's very few games I actually give that rating to. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed it, Carl. I think it's just fantastic in its storytelling, its art style, even down to the small details of every time you go into a fight, the way it unfolds. The stage is very much like a play and a paper book at the same time. The environments interact with you really well. Every single character has meaning to why they're there. Like you said, it's a very deep story too, and you don't expect that out of Mario games, where it's like there's a character that literally has to deal with his like dying wife, and it's like this is a Mario game, like what? So yeah, I definitely approve of your choice. What's funny is I had a hunch you might put it on your list, and I actually don't consider it a JRPG, even though it has every element possible. It almost made my list, and then I was like, I don't fully. It's like its own genre to me, and it's a Mario RPG to me. It's not a JRPG, and it's got its own classification to me.
Yeah, but Mario is a Japanese company.
No, I think you're fully justified in putting it on your list. For me personally, in my way that I define JRPGs as like it just falls short at like the last yard for me, and it's like it's not quite a JRPG. It's its own genre. It's a Mario RPG, and they all have their own flair to them.
That's also the best part about these Mario RPGs, because I've been playing Superstar Saga and I've been playing Inside Bowser.
Yeah.
With my spare time, like I'll save that for a different day. But it's just they add so much more uniqueness to like an RPG, though. It's like I've played so many standard issue JRPGs where it's like turn based. I'm a high school kid saving the world. Oh, look at my waifus. It's just so much better. I
know I am gonna blue screen your brains. Are you ready for this? Super Mario RPG is a JRPG. Paper Mario is not a JRPG, in my opinion.
You don't have one without the other, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's spiritual successor. Paper Mario is literally the continuation, and that's because of the whole like Final Fantasy tie-ins and stuff. But
that Paper Mario is better and doesn't have nightmare fuel enemies.
Hey, I'm a bigger Paper Mario fan. I agree with you. I think Thousand Year Door is the best one out of all of them.
Gold star.
Super Mario RPG would probably be third for me if I'm including it in that. But while it's like a spiritual successor, Paper Mario is still like separated enough.
Yeah. Do you consider that in that thinking? For Paper Mario, is Mario RPG a JRPG because it wasn't made by Nintendo in general?
For the Final Fantasy aspects of it, I would say Super Mario RPG counts because it's got Final Fantasy style boss. And it has a bit more ties to like traditional JRPG gameplay versus Paper Mario. I just feel like it's in a classification of its own with the way that they build their worlds. It doesn't feel like it's tied to like the classic grandiose storytelling that you would have. It's still got its own grandiose parts into it as its own universe, but I don't consider it to the same lengths that you would go in a traditional JRPG still. So yeah, I mean, for me also, there's none of that real like traditional boss design either, which I usually associate with JRPGs. And companions, yes, they're all there. So I mean, it does hit a lot of the other boxes. It, like I said, it falls like 1 yard short for me. In the same way that like people can justify Pokemon, I see the argument for it being a JRPG, and there probably could have been a Pokemon I could have put in my list too. But Pokemon is also its own RPG style to me, and Paper Mario is its own Mario type universe. I can't speak on the like brothership side of it because I haven't played through those ones yet, but just on the Paper Mario side, to me, it has its own standard, I feel.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like one thing that makes like JRPGs feel like JRPGs is the uniqueness about them. There's got to be some wackiness. There's got to be some weird thing about them because Japanese culture isn't just, oh, I'm dark and brooding. Japanese culture also has got a lot of light, weird things, you know, like one of the best animes, I will side tangent here a little bit, is called Samurai Champloo,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like a nice mixture of like this is like traditional samurai kind of like, you know, weird changing of culture, been like a weird bit of hip hop and stuff, and that's why I love these Mario games too, because I think they are probably some of the best examples of what a JRPG should be: unique, interesting, trying something different, not always sticking to the same formula over and over again. Like that's why I like these so much, is because they try to do something unique. They try to do something different. Nintendo is also like the same company that will make like the Fire Emblem games too, you know?
Right, but then do you consider Zelda a JRPG then?
Zelda is kind of like one of those things where it's like I joke about it being a JRPG more than like a serious thing, but it's like more people associate Zelda as kind of like an action adventure game. You know, I will say like
Sure,
to
but
me,
it has every element of a JRPG as well. Like that's how I see Paper Mario.
Does
It's
it
like,
level
yeah,
up
it's
though?
Yeah, there's no leveling in Zelda.
I mean, I
well,
guess yeah, you could say
You get
that's
new
true.
equipment, but you don't level up. You're the only level up argument you could probably give that is hearts.
So do you think JRPGs require a level up system?
I don't.
I
No.
don't think so
I
either.
don't either, but the thing is like the best part about like what we have about like RPGs is that there are not defined as like just straight up boom, you know, like this is what RPG is, because there's tactical RPGs, there's, you know, action RPGs, there's turn-based RPGs. RPGs, like when I think Japanese JRPGs, I literally just think Japanese plus RPGs, where it's like they got like the Japanese flair to it, and this is what it is. Like when you play like a Western RPG, that Western RPG like feels like I can relate to it in a different way than say like a Japanese RPG, where I can think of like I can relate to this as a different way, because a lot of Japanese RPGs, like I think we were talking about earlier, they have that like more like either like high fantasy feeling to it, or like slice of life taken to level 13, versus like a Western RPG. I've never played like a Western RPG that was like a slice of life game. It's like more sci-fi. It's more like, you know, science fiction. It's very high fantasy a lot for that too. But I've never like had that like real like slice of life or creative wackiness in a Western RPG. You know, like Fallout is the closest, but it's more like satire.
For me, I think I
Yeah.
mean just a tangent, I guess, with the to continue with the tangent with the whole Zelda thing. Like for me, a JRPG has a lot to do with the menu systems that you're in, like and how your stats are affected by your equipment and what you change and everything like that. Whereas like you say, like a Zelda is more of a action adventure, typical like almost Western era, like you know you go do this stuff. There's puzzles and stuff like that with all that. But like you look at, I'm just looking in chat. Someone saying that EDF, which I'm assuming is Earth Defense Force, is not turn based and has all of the JRPG tropes, which is to be like your menu systems and your like your stat loadouts and stuff like that. So like I could see sort of with Paper Mario and even Mario RPG, where that like blend starts to happen.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, yeah. Just sorry. Go ahead, Carl.
I was gonna say it was like what we were talking about earlier. We asked, I think I asked everyone, what do we classify Shenmue as? What do we classify Yakuza as? And I think I said I was looking up a thing because I was trying to find like Xbox JRPGs just out of curiosity, and they put Shenmue on there, and I'm like, I've never considered Shenmue a JRPG. I consider that a brawler. So it's kind of like this thing where it's like there are like the term RPG is like thrown around because RPG elements are in like so many games now. Like you could technically classify like the RPG like genre as probably the biggest genre, out there, because like Borderlands is that a shooter or is that an RPG? You know what I mean? You can make a debate for both.
Well, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Finish your point.
Well, no, because you put me on something here. So we were talking about Shenmue earlier, right? And how I don't consider that a JRPG at all, personally. And I was saying before the show as well, I don't think Final Fantasy 16 is technically really a JRPG at this point either. I think it's more a hack and slash spectacle fighter. Like, so for me, it's leaning way more in that direction where I'd almost say it's leaving the classification of Final Fantasy even being a JRPG at that point with that like iteration. So in the same way, like that's how I feel about like games like Paper Mario or like Zelda. It's like they have so many elements that could easily be classified in this. There can be arguments made for Shenmue, sure, but I don't think Shenmue is classified as a JRPG. I don't think Yakuza is classified as JRPG.
Well, the later ones are, like, not the old ones.
Yeah, Like a Dragon, I think is more traditional, or what is it? I don't know.
It's definitely more turn-based RPG.
Yeah. Okay. So I haven't beat all the Yakuza. I only beat like the original ones, but like those to me are more like, you're roaming and you're doing like brawler type things,
yeah,
right?
I consider those brawlers. That's how I would classify them.
So Paper Mario has a lot of ties to JRPG stuff, but to me, like I said, it's a very small line, and I understand it's more of a personal definition. So I'm not like refuting the idea that it is a JRPG. I think it would be to most people, but to me, I just think Mario games have their own classification in their own kind of genre. You have Mario games essentially, and they're like their own like class of games. And so Paper Mario to me is like it's like a Mario RPG. It's not like a Japanese role-playing game. It's not like a traditional Japanese role-playing game.
Yeah, this is the fun part about having a conversation, and it's fun just to think about it because, like I said, I keep going back to like there's action RPGs like Final Fantasy 16 that don't feel like a traditional RPG. They feel like a Devil May Cry game. And then there's also like the turn-based kind of classic ones where it's like I'm just going to go back and forth and we're going to do, our thing like Paper Mario kind of does. And then of course I think pretty much all of us listed a tactical RPG at least on here as well.
Yep.
So I think
which I'm kind of surprised at because when I brought out tactics, I was like, oh no, I'm like, that's why I almost put it at my number 4 in a way too. I'm like, I'm waiting to like it is my 4th favorite, but I'm like, I'm gonna put it there too. But yeah.
Yeah, so it just shows you how interesting, deep, and like, vast this array of like JRPGs we covered, because there are so many out there, and it's probably like, almost 4 decades old at this point of just like JRPG games that we were talking about here. The term JRPG is usually just like Japanese plus RPG, and a lot of these games I have to like double check them, and I just kind of go with like majority rule because it's like, is this what do people see it as? Like some people see Shenmue as an RPG. We kind of see it as a brawler. It really does make you think about like just how interesting and blurred genres can get.
Yeah, no, when you ask me Shenmue, I'm like, it's Virtual Fighter. It's Virtual Fighter in a story mode. So pretty much I would look at it like if you were to play like the new Street Fighter 6 in their story mode, it's that version, but back then if Virtual Fighter would have done it.
Yeah, and Yakuza does similar, so
yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, I get I get why you put it in JRPG. I think most people would consider Paper Mario JRPG. That's just my weird quirk.
Oh, which is fine.
Listen, Kay, that's why we love you, is because you bring a different perspective.
By the way, I'm so happy that this is in your top 5 because it is an excellent game. I'm so glad you found a game later in life that you could enjoy, and you should go back and play the GameCube version. It's excellent.
It's on the to-do list.
I didn't pull mine aside because I have the alternate covers and stuff. I didn't pull it aside because I didn't think of it as a JRPG, but maybe I'll find time to show it off later.
Very cool.
No, yeah, no problem. But like I said, I've been enjoying like finding out everyone's little JRPG stuff over here. It's been super fun.
Very cool. All right. Well, I guess that will go into our number 2. So, Kay, what do you got us starting off us for our number 2 for top 5?
Ooh, I get to really nerd out now. I'm excited. Okay.
Yeah.
So my number 2 could be interchangeable with my number 1. It's really tied for me, but I had to make a very difficult choice. And even now I'm staring at the pile and going, which one do I lift up? Because they both could be number 2 or number 1. But I'm going to go with Fire Emblem. That's what I committed to originally. This is the first one to come to North America, Fire Emblem 7. This is an excellent game. I have played it over and over and over, obsessively, inside out, every way possible. I am addicted to this game like there is no tomorrow. For those of you who don't know, it's pretty much, it's like a tactics type game. So you're dealing with strategy. You've got a map. You move them around the map. I think we know Fire Emblem games, all of us, so I don't need to explain too deeply, but there's a combat system where you've got like a weapon triangle. I think this game is an excellent balance of what Fire Emblem tries to do. I think they introduced the right amount of things where you're not bogged down like 3 houses, where you barely get to enjoy combat because you're busy trying to make friends at school and other crap like that. You actually focus on the world and this very deep threat of we're all under attack. The lords in the first half are just trying to make sure that they get like the proper lineage essentially, and they're able to have their like place in their royalty. And then you get into deeper threats, and as it expands, you start to get into more magic elements. And then, of course, with Fire Emblem, there's always a dragon and stuff like that. So it escalates very well. Every character in this game is likable. The combat feels great. All the maps are a great size. All of the enemies perfectly tie in why they're there. They all have their own personalities, which I love too. The recruitment system in Fire Emblem is like one of my favorite things ever. I just love that. I love the music that comes on during the recruitment. That is like one of the best themes ever. I agree with you guys on like music being important, to the point where I actually went and picked out all of my top songs from Fire Emblem 7 that I think are worth it. If you have never played this game and you just want to get a feel for what the music is like, you can look up any of these songs. Shadow Approaches, Raise Your Spirits, Scars of Scouring, Winning Road, Inescapable Fate, Distant Travels, Companions, Fire Emblem Theme, which is like the title theme, Unexpected Caller, Strike, Nurgle's Wrath, A Knight's Oath, and of course, Together We Ride. And Lynn's theme, because we all love Lynn's theme. So a lot of those are, I would say, more like approaching threats type music. So like you're in the middle of reading the story, and then all of a sudden you hear music go on. You're like, oh God, who's coming? Like, is it going to be like the Black Fang? Like, what is it? What's happening? But this game does such an excellent job of communicating language through the music. It's all just, there's no lyrics to it, but it's just every single song fits the feeling of what's going on at the time. So you have characters that are very loyal to you, and their themes reflect that. You have, threats coming in. It's supposed to feel ominous, and you really feel dread when they play certain kind of music. When you sense that a character is going to die, storytelling wise, you feel it in the music too. So it does a really good job of illustrating the stakes through its music, through its combat, through everything. I just love this game. I will play it over and over again forever.
Yeah, you guys are selling me on this Fire Emblem stuff. I gotta put time. I mean, I have a stack full of games I gotta get done anyway, but I gotta put time to try to play these.
This is the only Fire Emblem game that I don't own and I have not played, because I am a masochist and I need to get the complete in box for it, and it's super expensive.
Yeah, it's super expensive now.
I can finagle, I think, somebody into getting it, but I can't wait to eventually get this one and play it.
You can play it on Switch Online if you want as well.
Or I think it was, Obviously, they shut down the storefronts, but I believe that was released on both the Wii and the Wii U for Virtual Console.
I'm one of those weirdos where it's like I want to buy a game physically, and then I buy it digitally just to never touch it. That's like my big problem. It's just like I want to have the game just in case something goes wrong, and then I'll buy it digitally so I will never have to touch it because obviously I get really petrified, especially with how expensive some of my games are. Like I just get really worried. I'm like, oh no, if this breaks, I am so boned.
I understand that pain.
I same. I know
I'll
that.
also show this off. This is from the Nintendo Power original
nice.
sticker. I love that.
Woo, sexy.
Yeah.
That's my favorite stuff. The stuff that comes from magazines that, you know, just like the stickers or the covers or the stuff that we just have just laying around that, you know, aren't the pretty games that we have, but it's just as good in a way.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, I guess that leads me to my number 2. And again, it's my favorite. It is my favorite console, and I have this because I don't have the copy of anymore because I think I actually lost it. I hope I sold it when I had. I hope I sold it when I had my store. But my number 2 is Chrono Trigger.
Very nice pick, Jason.
Yeah. Surprised it didn't come up sooner.
You think? What do you mean sooner? And like?
Well, I mean, I'm just surprised it brought up. I guess in passing.
Oh, just me. Yeah.
Like,
I'm the first person bringing up Chrono.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, no. Again, if we're talking music and everything like that, I mean, come on. Like, I don't want to talk too great about Chrono Trigger's music because I think my number 1 pick has better music, and that's just me personally saying that. But man, Chrono Trigger's music's so good. Story's great. The way of using time is super good. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the game, it's just so good to play. I mean, it's just like how I have my Game Boy down there and it has Metroid 2. I have this game just sitting here all time just because if I want to play it, honestly, this is the only way to easily play it now, is on there. But man, it's such a fun game to play.
This is Akira Toriyama, isn't it? Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually started playing it this year after I did the Remembrance of Akira Toriyama show, and our friend JT Pixel, he's the one that was like super into this game, and I think I bought it on Steam sale. I own it physically for the DS as well. I got to the frog guy though. That's the last. Yep, he was the last guy I got to. I haven't played it since because I got distracted. I think a bunch of stuff came out. But I also hear that the DS version is also the better way to play it over the Steam version. Do you guys have any insight to that?
Yes. Steam version. Oh man, what was the issues? There's a few issues with the Steam version. But that's only according to like if you're trying to get it to like original like Super Nintendo versions. There's some issues.
All right, so I gotta start over again and play it on a DS, guys. That's what I keep reading in chat.
Yep. Yeah. No. The if you want to play it, that's why again I'm sad that I hope I did sell it when I had my store. For some odd reason, I think I lost it, which sucks because that never happens. But yeah, that's why I have this, and I always keep it in here. This is the one that Tyler put all the games I ever won on here too. So that's why I got to go back and double check all these Fire Emblem games to make sure what's actually on here because I would absolutely.
I don't know that I put a whole lot of those on there. Let's be frank.
I mean,
I think
I guess. I open it up right away, and K's number 2 is just sitting right there, it's like taunting me.
Play it. It's so good.
I literally just turned it on, and first game right there is just sitting there, just spinning around, being like, "Hey, you should probably play this."
Play it.
That's kind of funny. So yeah, that is funny.
That's a good one there, Jason.
Yeah. I gotta do that another playthrough.
Now, hold on, I
Anyway.
got a question. When you say you lost it, what do you mean you lost it? You lost the box, or you lost the original NES version?
Well, again, I had a store, and then I brought it, and then I came back and I couldn't find my Super Nintendo version of it anymore. So I'm hoping that when I brought it to the store, I actually had it there and I sold it. Because,
regardless, you don't have it now, so
I don't have it anymore, which still
really
sucks.
Better off.
I just hope I hope I just lost it and I got money for it. Is what I'm hoping.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
So, what is the main thing for you that you love about this game? Is it more like the characters, the storytelling, the environments? Because the environments always stood out to me in this game.
The environments, time travel. So if I have to put it in order. So first music, then the environmental and time travel. Then I would say the characters after that would be the 1, 2, 3. Which that's what I'll have to put it as that way.
Yeah, I think for me, I think that's probably the same order. I don't dislike the characters at all, so it's not an insult to them. It's just that like the music is so perfect, the environments are stunning. I love just the ideas behind it. You've got like prehistoric type stuff, you got post-apocalyptic stuff, knights, magic, just all this like really cool like blending together of things that we love. So those environments always stood out to me as like the main sell, but I know like the soundtrack is great, and it's one of those soundtracks you like go out somewhere and if somebody's playing that, you go to like a retro game store or something,
you stop,
you'll hear the music and you're like, oh yeah, that's it's just so natural almost. So everyone loves that soundtrack.
What I went Tyler, I think you were with me when we were at I was at a card store and I was looking at something and I'm like, and I'm humming something. Yeah, I'm humming it.
Sauce.
Yeah. Okay. I'm humming it. I'm like, wait, and I'm like, stopping. I'm like, I look. I'm like, do you know what? Am I going crazy? Is this what I think it is? Yeah. And I'm like,
I've never played Chrono Trigger, so.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I was. Yeah. It was that because I'm humming. I'm like,
no, I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember the moment, but
yeah.
You should definitely find the time to do it. It's one of those like almost cultural things at this point that you kind of need to experience.
It is on my list of. I have a. Let me see here. I want to say I have a several game long list of games that I need to play.
Can we just admit that we're all gonna just die and be buried like Egyptian pharaohs, just with all our games? That's what we're just gonna be doing.
Totally. No way, I'm passing these games on to somebody. I'm not gonna just bury them with me.
My kids will probably grow up to resent me, and I'm taking it all with me. Damn it! You get none of my riches, peasants.
Do you guys have a favorite like song from it? For me, it's the frog theme. I think.
Frog theme is really damn catchy. Just something about these older JRPGs that we're talking about from that time period, like the Dragon Quest games, Live Alive. That's another one that has amazing soundtrack, and they just remastered it and made it better. It's just something about that, like late '80s, early '90s, like just JRPG soundtrack. Those are just like really good.
I think we're all probably gonna say Frog that's played it. I'm trying to think of ones that I kind of argue. I'm like, yeah, Frog is just really good. And I think somebody in chat, when we were just mentioning something, said that too. Yeah. Oh yeah. We were just talking about. I just had mentioned the game, and he said, now I have Frog theme in my head, and that was a while ago. Yeah. So yeah, I think Frog is probably what we're all thinking.
Yeah. Shout out JT. He really loves that game, and he got me into it. So thank you, buddy.
Mm-hmm. All right, Carl, what is your number 2?
Number 2 game, I have put probably a grand total of 1,000 hours into this particular game across Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Honestly, one of my top 5 games of all time. Probably number 4. Absolutely fell in love with this series back in 2018. Monster Hunter World, Iceborne, the complete edition for this 2 here. I am not a big fan of Dark Souls-like games. I'm haven't really exactly always been the get good type, but this is like one of those games where it's just like I fell in love with it. Just the giant monster battles, the over the top crazy armor, the crazy spin-offs, the whole world is just like, even the spin-off games like Monster Hunter Stories and that, which is way more of a real traditional turn-based RPG. Just something about this game just like clicked with me for once. You know, it was like the first time I ever felt like just actual camaraderie playing with people, just doing random hunts, where I feel like I kind of became a little bit of an elitist in some of the later Monster Hunter games after I knew what I was doing. It is by far one of the best games out there that I have ever played of all time. Obviously, I keep saying it's in my top 5.
I wish I liked this. This is the first game I think on all of us like that I've played that I wish I liked the story. I think the gameplay is so good, but the story I'm not the biggest fan of.
No, you're not wrong. Base world story is not that great. Iceborne is where they just kind of push you right over the edge. Because they fixed a lot of like mistakes. Like Capcom has this thing where it's like they release the base game, they try a new idea, it fails, and then they make a better version, and then they fix all the mistakes in it. That's like what they've been doing so much with these Monster Hunter games. And clearly in Iceborne, they added so many cool mechanics. Obviously, you had the mounting system, but now you got the slinger system and the clutch claw, and you're just ramming monsters into the wall. And unlike, you know, the regular base world, when they added the Iceborne expansion and they added like true like end game boss fights, like look up the Safi Jiva fight, look up the Extreme Behemoth fight, look up Fatalis. Like all these fights are absolutely cinematic like masterpieces, and some of the most like just awe-inspiring boss fights. Like the only thing I can think of when it comes to like basically like an RPG that has like these grandiose boss fights is like the older Final Fantasy games when you have those crazy summons and you'd be fighting all of them. And ironically enough, they put a Final Fantasy boss in this game as one of the monsters and made it into a traditional MMO JRPG type of fight too as well.
So dude is the same way as he said, like it's like a borderline one too. Yeah, so I agree.
Yeah, I'm in that camp too.
I was thinking that too. I understand all of the things. It has the, like I said, for me, like menus and systems and stuff like that. That's what I think JRPGs. It has all that. It has weapons. It has armor. All that jazz. But like, I think it's just a little too actiony for me to really throw into any list. But
which is fine.
Which was funny because I actually intended to make this joke earlier, because by that regard that I've just said, all the From Software games should be JRPGs. If that were the case,
they technically are classified as JRPGs.
Are they?
That's what I mean.
That hurts so much.
It's a Japanese developer, and it has all the boxes. I was right. Elden Ring is a JRPG.
I hate that so much.
Sekiro is a JRPG.
I'm more okay with that, but I still hate it all.
See, that's what I mean. It's all over the place, guys.
No, which is fine. Like, and that's the crazy thing about like, again, when we made the show, or just like when we try to like put things in boxes and put things in lists, like they shouldn't have to be, and they shouldn't need to be, or if they are, it's fine that they're put into two of them. You know, it's one of those things. You take it as you classify as what it is. There's nothing wrong with it, and by saying that, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, that's the term action RPG exists for one of these special occasions, because there are a lot of games that are technically turn-based RPGs, but at the same time, you know, they also have action elements in those turn-based too. So it's like these weird hybrid lines that just keep crossing and changing as we get more and more into like later generations of gamings, and they have better technology and they can realize a different vision. It's just like kind of see all this stuff keep changing and, you know, growing and adding new terms and categories.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, going back to like what Dude's also saying, because he said, I guess I should put Dark Souls in my favorite JRPGs. I think Souls game are their own genre now. That's where it's like pain, you know, because it's like From Software, like all of that stuff they're Souls games. I don't consider them JRPGs.
Oh,
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I definitely agree because the Souls-like genre has become its own thing. Because you look at
Yeah, it's
like
like its own spawned like
like
genre that's
Lies
been
of
created a
P.
branch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Lies of P is like not was is a Souls-like basically, but like yeah, it is not anything necessarily. And then you have stuff like I'm just thinking about this too, like the Metroidvania Souls-like, where you look at like Hollow Knight is one of the hardest Metroidvanias. They compare it to Dark Souls in some ways because of the difficulty. Everything bleeds into everything, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's
And
what I mean.
it's crazy too. It's like, because if you think about Monster Hunter is its own category too. I mean, Monster Hunter
Yeah, I consider
is
it
its
one
Souls
thing.
like kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, is it a Souls like or is it a boss rush kind of game too?
No. I said Monster Hunter is not even a Souls like. I'm just saying like, so like Dark Souls made its own category. Monster Hunter is its own category.
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, but it's also like a lot of people can argue that
Mhm.
Monster Hunter falls into the boss rush kind of game too, like Shadow of Colossus and other things like that as well.
True. I guess that's true. Yeah, I guess that's true. Tyler, what do you got for number 2?
So my number 2, and I don't know if I'm going to get hate for this just because of the social aspect of it. I mean, obviously, there's been some hate for Three Houses, and what I'm assuming is it's like social construct area of that. But I'm not saying that Three Houses is my number 2.
It's
But
fine if it is. It's just
it's
my
not.
opinion.
It's not. But I am interested to
can't
find
remember
out
which
when
number
we
it
get to honorable
is.
mentions. I'm going to find it funny. No, Persona 5.
There you go. Okay.
It checked all of the boxes for me of what a great game is. I will start with the music because the music for that game is absolutely amazing. I think every single track in that game is like in ear tune. It's like acid jazzity, just like in your ears. You hum it, you sing it. You're constantly there. It's a turn-based party system game. With the social aspects of it, some people don't like. I think it's, it adds to it because it kind of gives you like a very good balance of like, here's really heavy dungeon crawling and turn-based combat. Okay, here's your chilled out like social sections where you're like, you kind of get quizzed for some stuff, or you go talk to this character. And like when I say Persona 5, I guess I also kind of want to asterisk in Royale when they re-released it, because it added some mini games that I thought were really fun and some other extra stuff. So it is one of my favorite games because of those things. And obviously the story and the cast of characters you have is so, varied. You have each character has their own like arc throughout the series that you help them evolve through, or throughout the game you help them evolve through. They all have different themes and different things to do. To deal with, and it's like this weird growing up like slice of life type situation where you're like, this is really cool, and it's varied throughout the entire game, and much like we said earlier, when it comes to stuff, like it starts off small and then by the end of it you're fighting God. And I love it, and I have one key moment that really sold this game for me. And
you can bang your teacher.
Not that. It was the first time I beat this game. I remember it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was my day off the next day. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down. I'm gonna play this for the next several hours. I was just finishing up the game, and
I know this story too well.
And I had a moment where I was like a sliver away from beating the boss, and he did an attack that wiped out my team. But because I had done a social link to a point that was like enough to unlock a special skill, it allowed me to swap my team out for new characters. And because the main character stayed alive just by barely, I was able to like come together and finish the boss off. And it was the one thing that felt like every party member was part of that fight. And I remember being like, wow, this is crazy. Now, it might have been just because I was sleep deprived, but like it was just one of those moments that I'm like, I will never ever forget this gaming moment for me, because of the fact that like it was a last ditch. I thought I was going to lose again. You know, I've lost a couple times to this fight. This is crazy. And had I not done that social link, you know, it would have been another wipe and I would have been back at it again. I would have gotten it eventually, but it was just like that, just that hair. It was like, oh, wow. And then, you know, it all plays out. If you've played that game, it plays out in such a fashion that is very like, you know, your anime, like badass trope. But like to get to that point, it just felt so worth it. And so, such a good reward and really hit that serotonin thing.
Yeah, Persona 5 got me back into gaming and got me back to my love of JRPGs. I will always credit this game as being that spark I needed to just like get back into it. Because I was playing a lot of TCG during the time. This is around the time when I met my wife and just kind of was starting to get back into gaming because I can't really travel as much anymore. TCG was becoming too expensive. So, you know, had to move on. And everything that you're saying, Tyler, about Persona 5 is just that's it. It's true. It's the art style. I love that cell shade, kind of crazy, weird art style. I like the theme of like rebellion and saying fuck the system. I like the soundtrack a lot. Lynn is really good. A lot of those battle themes, the opener, and everything else, even from base Persona 5 to go into Persona 5 Royal, they really know how to hammer a soundtrack in every Persona game, unlike probably most game series out there.
I haven't even played Persona 5, and I am right now, I don't know what song it is, but I already have one of the songs stuck in my head, and I cannot, I wish I knew. Is it Joker's theme?
Joker's theme is great. What is that? Life Will Change.
Life
It's
Will
always
Change.
stuck in my head constantly.
Last Surprise is probably like a big
is
one.
The base games.
I wish one of you guys would hum the
Combat.
song that I can kind of think of what one it is, but I don't even know. Yeah,
This song's stuck in my head too. Beneath a Mask, is that what you're doing? I'm a chef shifter, apples masquerade. Like that one?
No, I don't think so.
It's got like a. Is it upbeat or is it low?
It's upbeat.
Okay.
It's a female vocalist.
Can you post it in the Discord?
Yeah, post it in the Discord.
Okay, hold on. I gotta find it. I don't know the name of it. Like it's. Oh, man.
You're not. You said so. Never mind. Sorry, my bad.
No.
I will say one thing about the music and how it envelops the game. Because I was trying to pitch this to a friend of Jason and ours, who wants to try everything all the time, but is not the type of person that would actually do it. And I think you're thinking of a different friend.
Okay.
Yes. The long-haired friend. Was who I was trying to, because he liked the music and he's like, oh, well, I want to try the game. I'm like, okay, it's a turn-based game. He's like, I don't know about that. But the thing that Persona 5 does really well, and I think all of the Persona like spin-off games more or less, when the music gets included into it, it doesn't feel like a slow turn-based game because all of your movements and button presses are all on beat. It feels like a rhythm game, which is funny that they've made rhythm games spin-offs of it. And it's being mentioned in chat about the spin-off games, the dancing games. I can see why they did that, because the music is such a piece of it that like it often does feel like you're playing a rhythm game in the actual regular game, but without having to be playing a rhythm game.
Yeah, and to address something, there is 2 spin-offs. There's a Dynasty Warriors type game that is called Strikers, and then there's also the Persona Tactica game too.
Are the rhythm games good?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm curious about too.
I have all 3 of them. If you want to play them, you are more than welcome to. I can give them to you.
I might have to do that. Because like I'm just saying to myself, like I just played like the first song. I don't even know what the first song was. It didn't even tell me. I was just playing, like I was looking up. I'm like, there's just like, wait, I think I would just listen to play the music.
Yeah, they're really great. All the Persona games, like I said, 3, 4, 5. I haven't played 2. Skip 1. Do yourself a favor. Don't do that. Just watch a video. But I 2 and up are like all amazing games, and everyone should play those at least once in their life if they are a true JRPG fan.
Yeah, it's a song. It's not a cave. Is that the name of a song?
It's not a cave.
For Persona 5?
Hold on.
Royal, or is it regular?
Best of Persona 5 OST is what I have pulled up.
God damn it.
You sure it's not Life Will Change?
I think it is.
I think his life will change.
I don't know. I should probably just go to a better.
Damn it, Jason.
Does it have like when it starts off? Does it have like a really like heavy guitar riff that's like?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
like
yeah. Okay.
Which I will say, the first time that ever played for me, in the first palace or dungeon, or whatever you want to call it, was one of those moments where like the serotonin hit, and I was like, just on cloud 9, because you're like, oh, the whole thing is like they're trying to change the bad guy's heart or whatever, and this is where you go to fight the final boss, and it plays this music as you're infiltrating the palace on the last day that you can do it. And you're like, oh, super jazz. You're like, I can do anything.
Yeah, I need to listen to this soundtrack because I mean I love Marvel vs. Capcom. I love you are watching this and you're a fan of Top 5. I guess and this is a drinking game now. I mentioned a fighting game, so you guys got to drink. So there we go. It only took 2 hours for me to mention one.
Damn.
I always mention fighting games in all Top 5s. Doesn't matter what it is. So it only took 2 hours and 15 minutes this time. So there you go. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have to check these rhythm games out because
they're good. I got the steelbook from Japan too, and that's like one of my favorite steelbooks for Persona 3 and 5 Dance All Night.
All right, I'm gonna have to do that.
You know what shocks me? Sorry, Carl, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say I also have the limited edition Vita. That was the Persona Dance All Night Vita.
I love the Vita.
And that's one of my favorite collector's items because it's still sealed and brand new.
What shocks me is every time people talk about Persona, they don't really discuss the menus, which I think on their own deserve an award. Because it's some of the best designed menus in any video game ever. And they do excellent animation. The like intros, before you even get to the start menu, was beautiful. The actual menus, I think they have their own designer, don't they? Like it's just dedicated to that. And those look gorgeous. It's like they should literally get an award for how great they look.
3 and 4 are very similar, but 5 itself was like their first departure from that like. I mean, it was more of a regular menu type situation, whereas 5 was the first time in like the stylized like motion graphic things are moving all really fast, and I totally agree that like yes, the menus are even a part of the reason why I was like, this game is awesome, because like I have those tones, just the sound tones, like the sound design of that game with the menus just is stuck in my head too.
On top of that,
art on its own.
On top of that too, Persona 5 is so drastic in how you get personas as well too, because in the other ones it's like a card-based system and just kind of like luck. This one, like you can just beat the crap out of like a persona and then put a hold up, and then you can convince them to basically join your team by just doing an interrogation on them too. It was like such a bold refresh of the Persona formula in a lot of aspects, and it does its theme very well of like
shuffle time.
Yeah. I do like I do think after I've played like other Persona games, I find the story to be like a little bit lesser, but I do like the themes of like rebellion and anarchy in this one a lot.
I think 4 is my favorite Persona story, just because of the twists and turns that it has. But yes, I totally agree with the refresh, and that's why I picked Persona 5, because like I said, it's the whole package. It has a good story, it has a good characters, it also has all of the, like I said, the menus, the art, like the art style, the sound design, the music. It's like it hits on every single beat it needs to in order to be good, and it's no surprise that it did as well as it did.
Yep. I could gush about Persona 5 for a long time because, like I said, I have a big respect for Persona 5 because it got me back into JRPGs. It reinvigorated my spark.
Awesome. Well, that's good. That's good. That's what these kind of games should do. They should bring you want to play more, and these stories are so good that who needs TV or movies when you got such good storytelling and all these that you can actually play yourself. So it's very nice. All right, All right. With that, I do want to say goodnight to Wait. He said that a little bit ago, so hopefully he's still here and he can hear us. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you and I appreciate the talking and chat and getting the conversation going and everything like that. But with that, let's go into our honorable mentions before we get to our number ones. Anybody have any honorable mentions that they want to bring up that we should
I will
at least talk to?
I'll go first.
All right.
So, as I said at the beginning of the stream, I did a top 10, and this was very hard, but I finally figured out like what a good top 10 for me was for different periods of my life. I would say that my honorable mentions, if I go down in order, number 10 was the Dot Hack mutation of the Dot Hack original trilogy run for the PS2. If anyone knows what that is, it was a four-part series that was a sequel to the anime, and it was Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine. And they came with their own little DVDs and little synopsis episodes. It was pretty good. They were really fun action JRPGs. If you were a fan of like license-based video games, this is one of my favorite ones. And I think Quarantine is still the most expensive because it was super short printed as well. After that, number 9, and this is my current game of the year so far, it came out this year, Unicorn Overlord from Atlas and Vanillaware. A nice little Fire Emblem style game with a grid-based system and live action combat. Really caught me off guard. Loved it. 100%ed it on Xbox. I don't really go for all the achievements, but this one I actually did. I made the effort. That's how much I enjoyed it. Number 8 after that was Kingdom Hearts 2 for the PS2. It has Tron in it. Enough said. After that, a game that I've been really harping on a lot this year. I also beat it, and I've discovered it relatively recently. Project Cross Zone 2. I beat that in Hawaii. It's just nothing but a good old fun game, man.
Again, these are games that I beat. I really wish I could get into Project Cross Zone. There's nothing about that game that doesn't scream Jason will like this game. But I play it and it's Jason doesn't care for this game. It's the weirdest thing.
It's understandable. The combat is either you can deal with it or you hate it. I get it.
I don't know.
I get it, man. But it has.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. It's your honorable mention. Go for it.
I was just gonna say the reason why it's so high, why 2 is better than 1 is it has Phoenix Wright in it, so obviously it already wins there.
Yeah, the characters in the game are so great. There's nothing about the game that the character-wise I'm like, I should like this.
And then just it made out the top 5, and we just talked about it, Persona 5 Royale.
Okay.
That's my honorable mentions. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else?
Me. Okay. Invasion.
Whoa.
Wait,
Whoa.
you like
Surprise
JRPGs? Lies.
He's here.
As the resident genre expert, I had to drop in real quick and give the real top 5 answers to JRPGs.
Oh no.
That is number 5, South Park, Fractured But Whole. Number
Not a
4,
JRPG.
Mega Man Battle Network 3. Number
Okay.
3, South Park, Stick of Truth.
Not
Number
a-
2, it's not real time and it's an RPG. Star Wars: The Knights of the Old.
Okay.
Yeah, we got
Anyway.
rid of him.
We can continue now.
I wanted to hear his whole list. I got curious. The closest one that he actually had was Mega Man Battle Network. I was like,
he
you know
did.
what?
He had 1 JRPG. That's impressive
did.
for Neo.
Yeah, but even that's borderline to me.
And
Yeah.
number 1, because it's also a Metroidvania, Monster Sanctuary.
I
It's a
don't even know what that
Pokemon
is.
clone, but it's a Metroidvania.
Like in the same way as Pal World, or like completely different direction.
Yeah.
You collect monsters and level them up, and your monsters have different abilities that allow you to reach new areas. It's a 2D side-scrolling platformer RPG. So
Send me that name. I want to play that.
I
Yeah,
will
I
do.
didn't-
It's on Game
That's
Pass
funny.
as well.
Did
So-
you put that in
Okay.
our Metroidvanias?
No, it was not
Okay, I
on
was
my
gonna
top
say,
list, but
'cause
it's
I don't
the
really
only
remember
one
this
that
one.
qualifies as an RPG as well. So
Which one was that one?
Monster Sanctuary. So.
Alright.
I just wanted to surprise and drop in with a fake list. Well, I mean, it's real to me, dang it. But
Hey, it's real.
It was me, Austin.
It's a
was
powerful
me.
list. Is it a JRPG list? I don't know, but it is a good
Right.
recommendation list. I'll give you
As
that.
I have not played almost any JRPGs, that was the closest thing I could come up with. So,
I
have
mean, Monster Sanctuary got on 2 people's lists just by writing it down.
fun. I do recommend. I did not think I was going to like it, but once I got into it, I really enjoyed it. So, all right. Well, that was it. I just wanted to have a little fun. You guys have a
No,
great
you're
rest of the
good. Thanks for
stream.
stepping in, Neo.
Too
Oh,
funny.
fun to have him drop in.
I can do honorable mentions as well. I've got a lot.
Sure, yeah.
I'll run through them. I won't describe. Just so
Whoever
we have
wants
the
to,
time.
it doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, obviously, Final Fantasies, there's quite a few. 6, 7, 8, 10. 10 2, even though it's like kind of pushing away from the JRPG section, still recommend it, love it. And 7's remake part 1, I can't recommend part 2 yet because I haven't beat it and I'm not enjoying it so far, but I really liked part 1.
Blaspheme.
For Fire Emblem 6, which is the it's
Blazing
related
Blade.
to Fire Emblem 7. Yes, that's correct. And that's where Roy comes from. So if you are a Smash Brothers fan, that's where that comes from.
Roy's our boy. Roy's our boy.
Yes, exactly. I've got 8, which is Sacred Stones. Excellent game. I think that is. It could have been a contender for my top 5. It's so good. I always bounce between 7 or 8 being my favorite. 9 and 10, which is the GameCube and Wii versions. So Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. And then for Tales games, Legendia, which is by the same team that also worked on Soul Calibur. And so it's a hybrid of like a Soul Calibur and Tales game. It's super cool and unique. A little janky, not the best game in the world, but I liked the concept. Abyss, which you can get on 3DS and a few other systems as well. That one's really great.
Okay.
Yeah, and Vesperia as well. Vesperia is a really good one. Other than that, now just going into individual games, I've got Skies of Arcadia,
Great one.
Mega Dimension Neptunia. Now, there's a PS4 version they made that's in VR. That is actually the best version to get because they had to remake the game from the ground up. And so it actually is better than the original. Golden Sun, Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, Mother 3, Eternal Sonata, Infinite Undiscovery, Radiata Stories, Star Ocean. There's a theme with the kinds of games I like. Sword of Mana, Secret of Mana, Sakura Wars. And then just as a side note, because I felt like some of these would come up, I said JRPG Lights, aka they're not really JRPGs, but they're a good gateway drug. Zelda games, Paper Mario games, Pokemon games like Colosseum. And I gave the advice of go look up your favorite animes and then go see what games they have, because that is a really fun way to find underrated JRPGs.
Yes, the One Piece Odyssey game is really good, and that's a JRPG.
Yeah, that is all. That is all.
And then hold on before you go, Tyler. You might want to. Yeah, this is actually kind of funny because you went pretty crazy.
Well, I didn't want to
know-
take up like 10 minutes, so
these sometimes go for 4 to 5 hours. I'm actually.
James did say to show off my pile, so I'll show off.
Oh yeah, show it off. There you go.
I did actually pull them aside. So
yeah, show it.
First, Final Fantasy 7.
Ew, Chris hits.
Yeah,
Ew.
yeah.
Oh, whatever. Get over it.
Ew.
Final Fantasy 8. I didn't pull 9 down. I didn't actually recommend 9 for some reason. Sakura Wars. This is also like a Sega Saturn game, but I have the sealed PS4 version.
That's a good one.
Tales of Vesperia. I have Final Fantasy 10 here and 10-2. I've got a sealed version of Star Ocean from Future Shop, which doesn't exist anymore.
Future Shop.
Tales of Legendia, again, Soul Calibur team. Very interesting because Namco owns both licenses, and this was a very unique take on a Tales game. It's worth
Yeah,
it,
I just picked that up last year. It's on my to-do list.
Bandai owns that now.
Yeah, it's crazy. This is the version of Mega Neptunia that you should play. And like I said, the VR version they actually built from the ground up. So this is the definitive edition to play, even though it's VR. Infinite Undiscovery. I've actually talked about this on Carl's channel before.
You did?
This is like an MMO blended JRPG. It's very interesting. If you like the new, like the Final Fantasy MMO and World of Warcraft, you might like that one.
Also backwards compatible on current Xbox consoles.
Yeah. course, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. This game's worth a lot now. I didn't realize that, but it's worth a lot.
Stupid expensive.
And Path of Radiance, of course, too.
Also super stupid expensive.
I didn't mention it, but I do have Odin Sphere here as well.
Odin Sphere, nice.
I got that.
I have my Mystery of the Emblem cart there. And then, yeah, my number one, which I'm not going to pull now. So there you go.
Woo!
And Tyler, what was your honorable mentions? Because I know you were going to get there.
So not a lot. I like the Star Ocean Bowl. I actually put that on here. I've only played the first one and not finished it, but I've fallen in love with it. Just from a gameplay and a story aspect. Really into it. Skies of Arcadia, obviously a classic. For me, Bravely Default and the Bravely series just in general. Really enjoy the stat system there. It's a Square class, to me, a Square classic at this point, because just how they keep evolving on that like 4-character like party system. And then obviously I said I gushed about Trails earlier, but Trails in the Sky first chapter and second chapter are in my top 10 games of all time. Probably. Someone said KH2. I agree with that. I like KH1 a little more, but that's just because I'm an old, like an origin story type guy. And then Xenogears. Xenogears is an amazing game that does not get enough love, in my opinion.
Go out and buy it right now if you can on the PS3 store, and it is playable on Vita. I say that to everyone right now.
All right, and I guess my honorable mentions, except for I'll pretty much my honorable mentions been named. Skies Arcadia, I'm glad somebody's mentioned that one because I absolutely love that. But one that didn't get mentioned that I have sitting right here that because again, I guess I'm a Squaresoft shill because I'm looking at all these games and they're pretty much all Squaresoft. But Threads of Fate. If you haven't had a chance to play this, please play this game. Not a lot of people, I don't think, know about it. Thank you, Carl, for knowing about it. The game's fantastic. It's very cutesy, great PlayStation small RPG or JRPG game that you can play, and it's a lot of fun. There's 2 stories in there because Squaresoft does that kind of stuff, and they play differently but the same because of the powers that the characters have. It's a great game. It's a very, very, very great game.
Yes, it's a good one for sure, and it's also available on the PS3 store right now. With all the stores that are shutting down, and how expensive that game just got out of nowhere too. I think last time I checked, it was approaching like $70. It's I think $5.99. It's going up in price. Well, yeah. So I would say with all the news that we're hearing about every store closing, the Wii shops, the DS shops, the Xbox 360 store, if you have a PS3, go out now and buy any backwards compatible game right now, especially because some of those games physically are super expensive. Xenogears, The Misadventures of Tronbon, both Mega Man Legends games.
Gosh, yeah.
Go out and buy those right now. And on top of that, too, they are playable, a lot of them, on your Vita, so you can play them on the go.
Yep. Man, after this, am I going to have to go buy another Vita?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, did you see what I posted last night, Jason, about the Minecraft Vita that I want for no reason?
No.
Yes, there was a limited edition Minecraft Vita that was only released in Japan, and I want it.
Well, I mean, if it looks anything like the Xbox One S Minecraft one, I don't care for Minecraft, and that Xbox One S Minecraft looks awesome.
It's on my Twitter. You can look at it later.
I will definitely will.
Yes, buy Mega Man Legends. I just started playing that earlier this year. Fantastic game.
Ooh, Parasite Eve. Somebody just
thank you, Snap. Yes,
it needs a remake.
It does.
Really
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yep, I was gonna say thank you, Sample. I almost forgot about it because when that game came out, and again, game that's coming up, and Resident Evil are my favorite games, and I saw that I'm like, oh my gosh, they blended them together.
Yes, and on top of that too, like I keep saying, these are on the PS3 store, and they're both playable on your Vita. Parasite Eve 1 and 2. Skip 3, that's trash, but 1 and 2.
Yep.
So Jason, what you just did was what we like to call a tease. Do you want to start us off with your number 1 then?
Maybe I should.
I'm so shocked already.
Tyler, what could it be?
I can't.
Could it be?
We probably share the same top one, honestly.
Maybe
we only
I
talk
don't
about
know.
it at least once a week.
Maybe it's these games. Man.
Did you? Sorry, is that just sidebar real quick? Is that Crisis Core on Switch?
No, it's actually Final Fantasy VII on the Switch.
Oh, I didn't
partnered
realize.
with
Oh, okay, that's why. All right, I couldn't see the spine.
It's the physical edition of it. Yeah.
Gross.
Wasn't that the one that was only released in Japan and Europe, right?
No, that was released in America.
This
It
was
got
an
an American release? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He got that at GameStop.
I did.
Power to the player.
Power to the boss.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII. I wrote something down, like I was writing bullet points down, and then I just scribbled out because like I didn't know how to start or where to go. This game, I think, besides again fighting games, you don't have to drink there. Changed how I viewed how video games was. This game, pretty much, I got so like my friends pretty much came from this game. I was one of those jock athletes that love video games crazy, but anytime somebody I hear say Final Fantasy VII, I would go talk to those I guess those nerds, because I mean I'm a nerd too, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'd be like, oh wait, what? And all those people that I would talk to, you're like, wait, you like this game? I'm like, yeah, who wouldn't? Man, the characters are great. The music is my favorite music in gaming. The characters I absolutely love. The story I absolutely love. I absolutely love the new versions that are the remakes that are retelling it, but in a different way. Man, there's just so much about this game that I could just talk for hours and hours about. But it sounds like I know some of these people are gonna have some of these on theirs too. I absolutely love hearing other people's take on this game because yeah. But yeah, no, 7 remake is, I think 7 remake, as I played it again, might overtake the original, which is crazy.
What? Actually?
Yeah.
Are we talking? So when you say remake, are you talking just the remake? Part
this
1? Okay.
Part 1.
Okay.
Part 1.
You're holding up. Is that not Rebirth in your hand?
No, this is remake.
Oh, is it? Okay, sorry, I can tell. Yeah.
Terrible cover, by the way.
It's got,
I hate that it's just blank. Like, I'm not your version specifically. I'm just saying, like, I
have the white. He's just
getting
got it
it.
inverted. Yeah, I have the white version on mine because I like the throwback to the original cover.
Yeah,
I just hated that they gave you a version that's like it's just a black background with the title. It's like,
I like that one.
Yeah, I like this side.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? We had that conversation a few months ago when Rebirth came out, and we both finished it, and we're trying to decide what you like. For me, I won't be able to judge it until the whole package is complete, so the next part comes out. But just between remake and Rebirth, I was like, I think remake is the tighter narrative, because you don't have all of that extra stuff that we wanted and absolutely needed to have fleshed out. But it's just, you have that tight 30-hour adventure through Midgar, and like, this is really, really good. And, it changes just enough beats up, but it keeps itself going. You don't feel like it's slogging along too much. And I unfortunately have that problem with open world games sometimes, where I get to a point where I get fatigued by it. I'm like, I have to finish the story now. And obviously you don't feel that with a remake necessarily. Now, granted, you probably get through original FF7 in about 30 hours doing almost everything anyway, if you're efficient with your time. So, that's a toss up there, but I wholeheartedly agree with everything you're saying regarding that game. Like, it's, it is, in my opinion, a perfect game. And just for time's sake, I will also admit that is my top one as well. Yes, shocker there. If you know anything about me, Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time, and because it checks every single box: music, story, art, literally everything that I could ever want. And it hit me at such a time in my life that I was just like, this just changed my trajectory on storytelling, on video games in general. Like it affected me on such a emotional level that I don't think I would be the same person I would be right now if it wasn't for that game.
Yeah, and again, I guess that's almost the same way. It mirrors like how I said. I mean, we've talked about this too before. Is where it's like a lot of my friends come from this game from back then. It's just such a great. I don't know. It's just such a great game.
Final Fantasy VII was one of those first games that I think really broke into every type of person to kind of get to fall in love with it. Like jocks, nerds, everyone kind of united around this game because it was just so groundbreaking to just so many people. There's a reason why this game is so loved and why people really keep going back to that Final Fantasy VII well, with movies, spin-off games, obviously, and even now the remakes. And it's because it touched so many different walks of life when it came out. It just like bridged that gap. It was like truly unifying the nerds and the jocks together, all together. Your mom and dad love it just as much as you. It's one of those weird games where it's just like it hit and it resonated with so many people.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the craziness of not knowing it, like no voice. So I mean, we probably all here is like we didn't know it was Aerith until whatever. I mean, back then, I mean, I'm saying Ares the whole time, being an idiot, and all that stuff, and then Cat Sith, the way that it's supposed to be said, that I won't say it on here because that's just it's not how you say it. It's cat. It's not. It's Cat Sith.
Catsy or something like that. So it's actually
it's Kate. No, it's like Kate Sheath. I can't believe I said that. That just hurt me saying that. That hurt me. But anyway, yeah. The little twists that we all know of, a certain character dying, that doesn't happen. You can bring it back. She's got a final limit break according to this that you can use that you can't use. There's so many things. But yeah.
Who is best girl? That's the real question here.
Tifa.
You know what? The remake made me kind of think Jessie.
Yes,
I'm pro Jessie because of the remake only. But if that didn't exist, I'm Tifa as well.
But if Jessie was part of the best girl in the conversation during that time, then maybe. But it was always, who is it? Is it Aerith or is it Tifa?
I don't usually partake in a lot of the waifu wars, as I like to call them, in some instances.
Oh, I do.
You have to on this one though.
For me, I regardless of the media, I always have a soft spot for the like girl next door, like childhood friend trope. Like no matter what media it is, I'm like that makes the most sense to me. Because who's the type of person that's going to know this character the most? It's that person. So that's one of those things where I'm just like, that makes sense to me. I connect with that, and yeah.
And that's what makes the new remake so heartbreaking in a way, because we don't even know how it's going to go yet, but we know how Tifa is like living with what.
There's stuff going on there that's hard to explain, even for someone who's played it.
I know, it's so it sucks. Yeah, but and again, in the new one, it hurts so much because Brianna White does such a great job as Aerith. And it's like she is Aerith. Like her voice acting is so great for this character. And I mean, gosh. And then now with what's going on with this game, with spoilers or non-spoilers, like there's something there too going into this third game that we just, gosh, I don't know. And I'm glad I don't know. And I played this first game, the original game, so many times that if I say I don't know, I love it. I absolutely love that.
So, Jason, do I have to play through part 2?
Yes, you do.
I found the first part to be boring.
Oh, the first part's actually really great.
I fell asleep playing it.
Loaded, man.
Really?
That and 16, I fell asleep. I'm like, this is boring.
Well, 16's only great if you like Game of Thrones, really.
16's only great if you have like a massive need to fall asleep. It's the best sleep aid on the market.
Insomniacs, there you go. Carl's got a recommendation for you, Final Fantasy 16.
I'm not even joking about that. My wife literally had to wake me up because I fell asleep playing it twice.
It's a great game. I'm like shocked that you have that opinion, but that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. I mean, you guys have a gigantic schedule. Anytime you want to play 7 Rebirth, jump on, play it. We'll just go main story, and I will just help you through. We'll just play it. Like
I can't deal with the bloat of that game. It's
That's fine,
like
we'll just go
so
main.
upsetting to me because I want it to be like, okay, this is gonna be my game for a while. And you know, I
It still can
literally
be.
got it pre-ordered like day
Yeah.
1 digital because I was like, I'm gonna
Oh,
play this
wow.
right away. I'm not even gonna wait for it to get shipped to me, nothing. I want it physically in my hands the second it unlocks. I went digital. That's how much I want to play this. And then I started playing it. I was like, this fucking sucks because it's just so bloated. It's just
Yes.
so bloated. And
Yes.
I don't care
Good.
about grinding in gaming. I don't care if there's grinding in
No.
gaming, but it's bloated for the sake of we're gonna keep you engaged until we've made the third part. And that pissed me off so much that I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. So
See, you don't
I don't
even
know
have
if there's a fast cut through it that you know.
There is.
I'm happy to do
Yeah.
it because
yeah.
I
You
don't
just
want to like
focus
live
on
in
the
this
story.
world for like 200 hours. I'm
You
like
just focus on the
more
story. You don't
Yeah.
even need
20
to be that high of level. Like the level, you'll naturally get there just following the story without doing any of the extra stuff. You might have a difference of maybe 3 or 4 levels, but it's not enough to make it challenging.
No,
I will
you.
consider it.
Yeah, please do. I think what I beat it 3. So I got the game early. And that was a bad thing because I think I beat the game 3 weeks before anybody I could talk to about it, and it drove me crazy. It literally drove me nuts because I'm the only one that I'm literally like, did you do this yet? Did you do this yet? And then Tyler would mention something to me, and I'm like, oh, this, and then I'm like, did I just say something? And I didn't, and I'm like, oh, I didn't, and then almost did in a way, and I was like, okay, I did.
I think at one point
I did.
before I got yes, you did spoil something slightly for me.
I did.
But I think at one point we were only like maybe 2 chapters apart, and then I got busy with something while you didn't.
Yeah.
And I slowed up. But yes, you would get. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was one thing like, okay, you kind of spoiled this for me,
I
but
did.
it wasn't huge.
Nope. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I just can't do it. I will be nice and not say anything.
I understand like open world games is open world games, but if you really just play the story, it's totally like you'll get everything you need out of it. And then if you're done with the story, go play the extra stuff. I mean, there's stuff that I go back to every once in a while and be like, oh, cool. I'm gonna go.
I still
do
haven't
this.
100% of it because like I said, I get fatigued with open world games, and at a certain point, like I think I was like 65 hours into that game, and I like completed like 3 sections, and I was like, I'm good for now. I'll just finish it. Like I hit that point. I'm like, yeah, I want to be done, and it was worth it. Still, like I still had 5 hours after that fact, but it was 5 hours of engaging dungeon crawling. At Final Dungeon's a doozy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm just a big fan of Devil May Cry, and I just find the combat to be lackluster comparatively speaking.
That hurts.
Wait. Are you comparing Final Fantasy VII to Devil May Cry?
The remake and stuff like that, with a more action based combat.
I guess I don't really correlate it. I get like why you might feel that way because the combat's so different to the original, but
Yeah.
I think 16 and like even 10-2 would be more like Devil May Cry than.
Well, 10-2 is just garbage. I don't consider that like a real game.
Listen, 10-2 is an amazing game, and everyone's got to stop pretending it's not because
Listen,
we know it's a great game.
I'm not a big Final Fantasy fan overall. The series has never really hooked me, so I am the worst person to talk Final Fantasy with. I try all of them, and I just can't get into them and beyond. Just like they're just okay.
As soon as you learn that how to switch characters in battle in the new games, the game is ridiculous. Because you are literally hopping between every character doing something, and it is so crazy where you can then do this. And then now with Rebirth, with the team up attacks, it's so awesome. But that way, especially when they can learn things. I mean, like, gosh, yeah. Okay, if you ever finish one Rebirth and you do it on stream, I'll be there helping you out because man, it's great.
I do intend to eventually. It's just, when you're like
Just-
so excited for
I know.
something and then it
And then it
disappoints you
doesn't-
so
yep.
quickly, it's just like so hard to do it after.
I can't wait till you start just mainstream or mainline story and you'll be like, oh man, if I would have done that, I would have had a different thing about it. But now, like, I completely understand what you went through. But if you just go through the main story, just keep going through the main story, and you'll be like, oh man, why didn't they do that in the first place? And then you're gonna be like, oh, I can see why. And then second of all, be like, oh, if I would have done this and then beat this, and like, oh, if I would have gone back, oh, I could have learned a little bit more too, and it would have done this. Like, you would have been totally fine with it. You would have been completely fine with it.
Okay. I will
Okay.
consider.
Kay's reaction is like me playing God of War Ragnarok.
I haven't
Why, what
finished it.
happened Okay, never mind. I won't ask.
Still, seriously?
Seriously, I told you I have a game back here. I have games back here.
I call God of War Ragnarok the Last Jedi of God of War games.
Should I pull this up for a second while you guys can do it and you can signal me back in?
I know
No,
zero
no.
about this game, so I
No.
can't even.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's for another day and another time.
Okay. Well, anyway, we've talked about Final Fantasy VII for enough. I mean, I guess I can't say that because we can keep going. I'm totally fine with that. But Carl and
Well,
Kay, I'm sure you guys got games.
Well, I didn't get because I feel like I pissed on it a little bit by being like, I hated the remake part 2, but I'm curious, like, is there a favorite character that you guys have? Because both of you picked it as your favorite game.
Gameplay wise, unfortunately, like for me, Tifa's probably the most fun to play just because you can abuse the stagger mechanic pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And it's just if you get the setup just right, it's combat's over in a flash. And again, that's one of those things that I really like. Setup of systems and the gameplay system in that is probably what it is as far as gameplay is concerned.
Is that for both versions? Tifa's your favorite, or you're just saying like in the new one?
And the new one, in the original one, because there was just so much more open game. I guess I say I was good at gameplay first because the materia system in that is so busted in the original one that you could basically make
So
anyone
broken.
invincible. The fact that like you can counterattack and instantly kill something if your materia connection is set up right is stupid. In a good way. I mean,
Let's
character
just face it. The
wise,
materia system has been broken in both games, like both
No,
original
absolutely.
and this, like, which is great. I love that.
absolutely. And I guess now I think about story wise, like, yeah, Tifa's probably my favorite character, just not from just that whole like, childhood trope thing, but like just the journey that she goes on as a character along with the party, in both games so far has been very rewarding, from top to bottom. Like watching her kind of start as this insecure character in the original one, unsure about her past and the stuff that her connection to Cloud, and then watching that unfold in the rest of the game, and sort of evolve into something more is very, like I said, rewarding from a narrative perspective.
And then for me, more now as an adult, I love Zach. But as a person that felt when I fell in love with the game, I think I fell in love with it so much because I felt kind of the same weird personality towards Cloud. And as weird as it is, because Cloud doesn't have a personality because he stole somebody's. But for me, as I was growing up, I was trying to find my place, and I didn't know who I was gonna be, who I wanted to be. I know I loved I love games and all that kind of stuff, so I had like something like that. But everything I wanted to do, I kind of stole from like all this media, and that's how I was like. So instead of Cloud being Zach in a way, all these things in media. I was like, oh, I had this kind of stuff. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I am a person that played sports. I love playing games. I love this. I love that. I always took on this stuff. So when I would speak in like these movie quotes, or I would speak in these like game quotes, or I would just like result into these games. So this person that was like kind of lost trying to find themselves, he found himself being this person. I found myself being in all these certain types of media that would eventually be the person I am today. but technically that wasn't it, because I that was me. That was a certain, characteristic. That's why, like, now I find myself really loving Zach, is because, that's what you were. That's exactly what it was. You weren't lost. That's what you were, and that's technically Cloud, what Cloud is too. But yeah, I don't know. It's great. I love looking at those. I love looking at those two dynamics. And yeah.
Oh, the character dynamics is what makes Final Fantasy VII what it
Mhm.
is at the end of the day. The story, like, is great too, but you could
Yeah.
plug and play that story
You
in
can.
really any format. And the eco-terrorism and all that stuff, it's been done before. It's
Mm-hmm.
really the characters that make it and the journey they go on, and just like getting close and intimate with those characters and, relating to them, like you said, the combat styles and how they're unique to each character, and having the twist that comes with it, and talking about the original, and all the equipment's on that character still, like, what, so that's really interesting. For me, Tifa would be my favorite too. Again, if not for Jessie, I do really love Jessie
This is
in the
great.
remake, but if I'm being like realistic, Tifa is my favorite character too.
Yeah. And then let's, like, in the original 7, I mean, Sid is a complete asshole. Like, but you root for him eventually, because then you realize what he went through. Like, he wanted to go, he wanted to go to space, but he couldn't. And then, like, someone stopped him, and then he took that anger on that person. And then it's like, well, you shouldn't have. He saved your life, but, like, his life was space. And it's like, okay, I guess I understand that. Like, she took away something that you thought you could have done, but you wouldn't have done it. And like, there's so many crazy things that, like, each character has so many gray areas, but those gray areas are so good. And it's, I don't know, I love the game. But yeah, that's enough about Final Fantasy VII. Let's who wants to go next? What's the next number one?
It's up to you. Carl, do you want to go? Do you want me to go? I don't care.
Ladies first.
Okay. Time for me to talk about my number one. I'm very excited for this one. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone that knows me, really. But I will still reveal it all mysterious like anyways. Tales of Symphonia is my number one JRPG. This is a game that I have beat so many times I can't even count anymore. I have 100% did every single thing I can in this game. I have investigated every other version of this game to see if I even like those games. There's a PS2 version that's Japan only that's got extra boss fights in it. I've gone through that stuff. I've gone through the now ports and the Switch and everything. Disgusting ports. Don't play them. They're awful. Please don't do it. Play this version. This is the only 60 FPS version to exist, even if it's stripped down in its content. This is a story pretty much about a chosen of salvation, and you go through and you're helping her go on this journey. You guys kind of like go to school together, and you've got another pal with you that's like a magic user, and you go with your teacher as well, who's sisters with your best friend. And you all go on this journey across the world to ultimately save the world. But halfway through this story, a lot more is revealed and things are not as they seem. I'm, of course, generalizing in case anyone wants to play this game. It completely flips the traditional JRPG storytelling on its head, and it becomes a completely different story entirely. And so you could actually say that this game is two campaigns in one. It's not just one solid story. You literally, for like 30 hours, think this is a game about one story, and then it just completely changes, and then you're kind of doing another story for the next 30 hours, and then after that 30 hours you realize there's a final thing you need to do at the end, which is like another 10 to 20 hours of another kind of plot entirely. So it stitches things really well together. It makes you question who you should trust in the story. A lot of relationships are revealed. A lot of like there's a lot of like church themes in it. A lot of like Tales games, they do a lot of like good versus evil, demons versus angels type stuff. So they play with that, and it's like, who actually are the demons? Who are the angels? All the companions are excellent. They all have great motivations for what they're doing. Some of them even will start off as people that you're fighting, and you can convert them to your side, which is cool. There are options in this game where you can gain and lose companions as well. I'll just generalize that to not spoil. The combat system is my favorite combat system. I just love that kind of like action RPG type game feel. So I really enjoy that. All the towns are gorgeous and full of life and tons of side missions, and all the side missions feel like they matter. There's points in the game where like, towns will get destroyed and you can help rebuild those towns. And so you go and grind for, they call it gold in it, but it's gold, and you go and grind for it and you come back to that town and you spend money on it and it slowly rebuilds, and you see the town folks like getting their life back together, and it's just such a like great feeling to actually feel like you have an impact on this world. Just it's such an excellent story, such an excellent soundtrack. I highly recommend this to anyone, and you will find so much to do in this world. You can easily spend 100 hours in this world and still not even do everything. So yeah, this is another game that it's not quite a 10 out of 10 for me, but that's because I'm like so obsessed with it that there's still nitpicks I have. But it's a good like 9 out of 10 game for me. To the point where I'm not even going to bother reading all of them. I have a top 25 song list for this game because it is that good of a soundtrack. But just to throw a few out there, if you want to know how great the soundtrack is, go listen to the song Fatalize. Now, fun fact, I actually used this in one of our Melee Games intros, and it is one of the few times that people in chat were like, what song is this? This is great. It's excellent. Go listen to the song. It's called Fatalize. There's a song that literally is only in the game for like 2 minutes, and you don't even really need to go to this area ever. And it is one of the best songs I've ever heard, called Far From Our World. It's so good. There's multiple versions of songs, so based on the threat level at the time. So Last Battle Decision is really great. There's two. There's Will and Decision, one where you're trying to like make the choice and one where you actually do. And the way that they paint the difference between those songs is excellent. And like the final version is great. There's music that's exclusive to Japan only. So Starry Heavens, the heroic version, that's an excellent song too. I highly recommend. And I've actually put another Tales song in our like Melee game stuff. So in our Be Right Back screen, which hasn't been debuted yet, no one's actually seen it, but there is another Tales song in there called Dance in the Sunshine. So this is an excellent game for everything. If anyone is ever curious to hear my top 25 songs in this game, bug me, I will tell you. They're just so good. And actually, this guy also worked on the Golden Sun soundtrack. So if you know Golden Sun and you like that music, it's the same guy.
I have to bug you for that list.
It's such a good game. I don't know. It's like so good to the point where I could do a stream just about that game by itself. Just like how you guys are with Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
To answer Dude's question, there is a sequel on the Wii. It's a stripped down version of the game. It follows new characters, but you see cameos from old characters. I don't really recommend it. Like if you become a huge Symphonia fan, sure, play it. But it's completely stripped down. This is Symphonia itself is an open world game. You walk around and do everything. In the sequel, they just make it so you have a menu and you just like transport to different parts of the world. So in that way alone, it's already completely stripped down the gameplay loop of it. And that kind of sucks. So, but yeah, highly recommend this. And another fun fact about this game is it's related to the original Tales games too. So if you are a fan of Fantasia, this is a game you want to play as well.
Very nice.
Like Disney Fantasia?
No, Tales of Fantasia.
Oh, sorry.
Which is like one of the original like Tales games.
Sorry, I do that.
They did Kingdom Hearts before.
I just meant like when I say like Fantasia, I mean like
the music,
not just music, but just like tone.
Okay. I guess.
Yeah, no, different stuff.
All right, well, Carl, you're gonna finish this off. What is your number one JRPG?
My number one JRPG has plenty of ports, remakes, and I guess you could say just recently a remaster or a remake, I should say. It is Persona 3. I'm just gonna say Persona 3 in general. I love all the Persona 3s. I did not play the original one, though, which I hear could be very maddening because it still has the auto-attack allies. So I skipped that one. But the first Persona 3 game I played was after getting really into Persona 5 original. So I decided to go out and try the other Persona games, and I started playing Persona 3 Portal first, and I absolutely fell in love with this game. Went out and played FES after that, and then obviously just recently this year I played Persona 3 Reloaded. I couldn't pick one because I absolutely adore everything that each Persona 3 brings. So I'm just saying Persona 3 in general. For me, it really hit home with me a lot of the themes in this game. I know a lot of JRPGs kind of have like that deep story, or like they have that weird like boss thing. Persona like has a theme in every one of their video games, I feel like, and Persona 3's theme to me resonates with me so much more, and it's about accepting change or accepting inevitabilities and fighting against them, even though like one day it will all end. The characters you meet in this game have such interesting and unique stories. You obviously have people that are like, I have to try to be the best athlete I can in order to fulfill a promise to my cousin. I need to keep being a good athlete to save my family, because if I get rich, then my family can be saved, because my mom is poor and my dad's dead. One of the very first characters not one of the first characters you meet. Later on, you get to meet a character in a game who's dealing with the fact that he's dying. And that to me is something that is not really talked about in too many games. And then it's just like you get to see a character try to rationalize, like, why am I dying? I don't think it's fair. Why is life like this? And it is very touching in that, because a lot of it is trying to either make amends for past mistakes, or realizing that it's okay to know one day that you're going to die and you're not going to be here. And a lot of these themes in this game like really touched on me, especially when I replayed it again. I was getting married and everything. I was having a lot of big changes in my life, and I had like a few panic attacks from a lot of the themes. Again, I'm going to say that much. Another reason too, I really like this game. The setting takes place when I was still in high school as well. So it also brings me back to like that special time in my life where it's like I can think back to high school, and it's just like I relate more to these characters because their time frame is something I understand more. Even though it takes place in Japan, it's like a lot of the like mannerisms and culture and everything still kind of like translates over a little bit to like just the flip phones and everything else like that. It just holds like a special place. I love the combat system. I love the music so much in this game. I really do think that you can just spin a wheel and like you can get the portal, like the original soundtrack or the remake or the dancing soundtrack, and they're all really great. Changing of the Seasons is really good in the original, but the remake made it so much better. I absolutely adore that song. If anyone hasn't heard that, I recommend you listen to that one in particular. I love the final boss, Nyx. That was also Nyx is kind of like one of those bosses I look at and just get really excited about fighting because she is really tough, and I absolutely loved how tough Nyx was for the first time I fought her. I love the cast of characters in this game. I love the interworking social drama that is with some of them, and generally speaking, compared to the other Persona games like Persona 4 and Persona 5, like I like their themes, I like their characters. I just think for me, Persona 3 just did something that I just resonates with me so much because as a person who suffers with like anxiety and goes through bouts of depression, it does really have like a more profound effect on me just to like see the apathy syndrome in this game where people are just like giving up, or you see the characters like just go through like these absolute lows, like accepting that their son's gone, or accepting that they're not going to be like their brother, or like I said before, the aforementioned like I'm dying of an illness and life is not fair. How do I explain these things? It's these themes that I battle with myself so much on a personal level that this game really does connect with me more than probably most video games out there or most things in general in media. Like it's hard to say. Like, this is one of those games that like made me come very close to crying. I've only cried for like 2 video games before this, but like this one for sure really like actually tested my emotional barriers so much more than probably most video games.
No, that's great explanation why that be your number one. That's actually really good. Really good. Man, so again, because I tried Persona 4 Golden before. Does 3 kind of have like the aspect where you need to be socially with everybody? Because like that's what kind of turns me away from the Persona games.
I personally would put 3 and 4 very close together as far as gameplay is concerned. Like they're hand in hand.
The Reloaded, I would say play that one, Jason.
That I haven't gotten to play a lot of, so yes, I can't speak to that. But that's probably more close to what 5 is as far as quality of life improvements.
Yes, and Kay was brought it up earlier when she was talking about Persona 5's menus. Persona 3's Reloaded menus are absolutely spectacular, especially the use of blues. That whole feeling of underwater and stuff like that too. It's like you just there's something different, and there's like this weird edginess too, because to summon your persona, like that's another thing too, is like they have to confront this fear because they get this thing called an invoker, and the invoker looks like a gun. And like to summon these persona, they basically have to shoot a metaphorical bullet through their heads to make their persona appear. And it is, like I said, there's like this big theme of like you gotta overcome like the inevitability. You gotta accept that you can change things, but things need to change. And that you see a lot of that with a lot of the main characters in this game, that they have to overcome, personal problems in their lives. Like, I don't want to spoil it because that's how much I love this game. It's like
you really sold me, because the character, like, again, I don't know much about Persona 3. I mean, I know it's a really good game, but I don't know like anything about characters. But the character that you were talking about, the one that had like the illness and all that kind of stuff that he's trying to overcome and all that kind of stuff, like I mean, Tyler knows this about me, but like me, I'm a type 1 diabetic that has a seizure disorder that even doctors to this day don't know why I suffer from them. And like, so I pretty much wake up every day, and I mean, I have a disease that one is very manageable because type 1 diabetes, it's take insulin, you do your stuff, you follow your meal regimens, you're fine. But I mean, I have something where I'm like a ticking time bomb that like I could be totally fine, and then next you know it, right now I could be screaming like a person from you can laugh. I can be screaming from like one of the monsters from what's the movie? I just lost it. But the like one of the aliens that's pointing that you're not one of me, and I'm screaming at you, and next you know I'm laying on the
Body
ground
Snatchers.
screaming. Yeah, I can be doing that right now. I can literally do that in 5 seconds from now, and it'd be like, what the fuck's going on? But again, I live with that because I do. But I go through it like Carl and Kay, you've known me now for almost going on for a little bit year. You never knew that about me, but like, and I live my life like, oh, it is what it is. I go through it. It sucks, but I go through it. But like that character you were describing, I'm like, man, I kind of want to see how they write this kind of character, because that's kind of like how I live my life day to day now. Is one of those things like, yeah, it could happen, but it is what it is. It's the hand that I was dealt. I'm making everything best I can out of it.
Yeah, and I seriously do love the Persona series a lot. And like I said, each Persona series has each Persona game has like a theme in it. And I feel like Persona 5 has like that rebellion theme. It's got that very sense of like, fuck the government, just don't let society keep you down kind of feel to it, which I like, don't get me wrong. But comparatively speaking to like Persona like 3 and 4, there's just something like a little bit more different about it. And that Persona 4 I like. It's actually my least favorite of the 3. But Persona 3, like I said, on so many levels, it just like really does like speak to me on so many levels. And like I think a lot of people always have that one thing in their head. It's like, well, we're all going to eventually die one day. Sorry to be a downer about that, but
True.
It's one of those things where it's like, do we just have to accept like, life is what it is, or do we want to like try to do the best that we can with our lives while we're here?
Mm-hmm.
And like I keep saying, like, this is what I love about like arts. This is what I love about mediums. This is like what I think is the that word I can't pronounce. I'm just being stupid. But like this is what I think about like what really touches your soul. And there's like, only one other series that has done that to me, and that's Mass Effect. Like this is like right below Mass Effect for me in terms of just like how much like it's touched my like life and made me think about myself, have me have like a retrospective about my views and everything else like that. And you know, kind of like a lot of people who encouraged me to kind of start streaming kind of started to be out there and everything else like that too. Persona 3 kind of also gave me the courage to kind of like go in there, just like realize like, listen, there are things that are wrong with your nights. Yes, antithesis. There you go. But like I can't recommend this game enough to everyone. That's why I put all three of them on there. There's so many different things about each of these games. Like FES is like basic, go in there, that's vanilla. The PSP port is like a visual novel mixed in with like a dungeon crawler, and you can also play as a female protagonist, which is not really in the Persona series that much. And then the remake is like if you like the Persona, if you still like all of that, but you want the updated combat of Persona 5 with the great over-the-top flashy art style and much improved gameplay, like you got your options here. It's the best thing ever.
That's awesome. So yeah, before we end the day, I just want to say thanks to everybody in chat. Nerd Takes just showed up. Thank you for showing up to the very end. Hopefully you get a chance to watch it because there's some really good discussion on some of these JRPGs, especially with our number ones. Even more than just being our favorite games, I liked how all these number one games had something to do personally with us, and that's what made them our number one. And not just because the game was good, the gameplay was like there was something that in the game like kind of shaped us as we are, as the people we are today. So I absolutely loved how these games kind of brought that up in us and all that kind of stuff. That's what I was hoping for, because like a lot of RPG games is like there's a reason why we spend 50 to 100 hours in the games. It's not just because of gameplay. It's not just because it's a fun game. There's something in them that really, really, really kind of makes us, what they are.
Well, it's also very telling to just listen to all our stories here. It's just how many times we went out and rebought these very same games. We've replayed them on different platforms and different times. Like Kay out here bought her game like a few times. Even went to look into the PS2 Japanese only thing as well. Like that's dedication, And then on top of it too, Jason, you showed off your stack. I showed off my games. It's.
And that's just the game part. I mean, there's soundtracks back here. There's there's everything back here too. Yeah.
Yeah, like you and Tyler talk about it, apparently in your free times too about it. It's just, it's easy to get blackpilled and get upset about a lot of things in life, but there's always that one thing where it's like these things matter to us, and that's why we really want them to still be around and relevant because they hold special places to us.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I always joke too. I'm like, man, it would be nice just to fall asleep for 3 years and wake up for the part 3 of FF. I always say that, like, man, 3 years is a long way, but I guess there's other things to play. But yeah. All right. Well, other than that, this is the part where it takes me a long time to figure out this top 5 for us as a group. And you know what? Because it's Nerdy Neos in my channel, I can make the rules up. This one is one of the hardest I had to make because there was only one game that we shared, and that's obviously going to be our number one. But other than that, I mean, there was a lot of like stuff to get going on here. So obviously, our number one,
Fire Three Houses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. Are we gonna?
You guys kept alluding to the fact that like Three Houses was gonna be on someone's list. So I was like, am I gonna fight someone or not?
So here's the thing. Like, I will say my piece with the game. I understand it's not the greatest. I do find the social aspect of that game a little too much. But having played through 4 different times, by the time I got to my fourth playthrough of it, it was just, how can I break characters in weird ways? The way that class system is set up where you can pretty much make any character anything, is the only thing I actually really, really enjoy about that game, because I can take a character who is statted out to be a mage and make her into a brawler character, or that's one of the things about that game I like, is just the way that you can break things in certain ways. I completely understand the qualms of the school setting and the overabundance of having to go and talk to every single NPC throughout campus to do certain things. Totally get it. Do you have other qualms that you'd like to speak on?
Whoa, am I getting into an argument?
I'm not saying
No,
that's not an argument. I'm not
I
arguing
don't think
no,
it's
no,
an
no.
argument.
I'm
I
teasing.
think
I'm
everybody's
totally,
gonna agree with you. I have no take. I guess I'm in my I'm in the middle. I can break things up, but yeah, no, I don't think anybody's gonna have anything.
no, I'm totally teasing. But
Oh yeah,
my
Can I say
other,
one thing before you
Yeah.
do Tism,
Yeah.
Kay?
I'm not gonna tism that hard on the game. Like it's fine.
The Golden Deer are the best house. Next.
Okay, well, look,
Uh,
my biggest gripe with this game is that they pretty much scrapped the weapon triangle, which is
Oh,
ridiculous to me because this is literally what Fire Emblem is built on, is the rock paper scissors system. And then you created this whole other system where it's like some weapons are just more powerful than others, but there's like way less logic to it. And to me, that breaks the fundamentals of the game and why I don't consider it a Fire Emblem game. But on top of that, as mentioned earlier, I don't like the school setting at all because Fire Emblem is about like these grandiose wars between like countries. And yes, there is like school implied in some of them because they meet each other in school when they're young and they're training, but you don't have to go through the slog of the day to day. And it just really felt like Three Houses was this like life simulator type game with combat attached to it rather than the core of it, which should have been like map to map combat with like sprinkles of spice of life stuff in it. So I feel like they just inverted the formula, and that's why it doesn't feel like a Fire Emblem game to me.
yeah.
So-
I definitely, just real quick, I definitely felt like, because there's a time skip in that game that is very much like where I think the game went wrong, where I thought when I first played it that it was going to be that first section of game would be the school setting where you interact with everybody, and then they imply it with this like you would go to war situation with the second half of it, but then everything comes back to that campus, and I think that's the problem that they had, was that instead of having it jump and be like a whole different game, basically the second half of it with the same aspects of some of the first stuff, it didn't occur, because everything, you're like you said, it just pulls you back into that social aspect, and you're like, I just want to go back to the next map and kill things. At least that's how I felt.
It just really felt like it was more about like making friends and romance, and it's like I don't mind the whole support system type thing because I actually love that about the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblems. I think there's so much story to that. And actually, that's why I bounce between 7 and 8 so much, is because the story in 8 is the most compelling part, even though the gameplay is really cool with the whole twins system and the branching story there. I really love the storytelling. And ironically enough, that is surrounding school. Like they all met in school. And it's that dynamic of somebody that I like grew up with that I knew as a kid, an innocent child, has now turned into this monster. And how do I like come to gripes with that? Like it's such an interesting story. But then in Three Houses, it just feels like fluff. It doesn't feel like it's impactful or that there's a reason for all of that. It feels more like they're trying to open it up so that you feel more engaged with the world, but then they kind of take away from the interesting, like the intrigue, because they add so much free space. And Fire Emblem's always a very concentrated experience. There are bonus chapters that you can do in other Fire Emblems, but all of them feel like there's a purpose to that too. And yeah, I just feel like Three Houses really like deviated from what makes Fire Emblem charming. So that's why I don't like it.
I get your point, but I do feel like the story of Three Houses actually is really good when you get deeply invested into it, especially when you start to look into like the whole thing where like Edelgard and what she has an issue with the church about, and then Dimitri, and then the Golden Deer stuff too. There's a lot of replayability. There's a lot of deep story in here I think a lot of people just kind of go like, oh, they're capitalizing on the Persona hype around that time when it was in development. You could tell that there was some of that to it.
I
It is a Persona game to a big degree.
But
I would argue about just a kind of against that, because while you get all of those different sides of the story, there is nothing that uniformly tells a consistent narrative across not all three, but like there shouldn't be things that are important to one path that are left out in another path. Like I
Exactly.
shouldn't have to play through the was it Blue Lions story or whatever they were, in order to get through and find out that, oh, two of these characters knew each other as children, but don't remember it because one of them's different looking now. But then that's never brought up in the other path where it should have, when that same character is one of the key characters of that path. Or even the fact that the main villains of that game, who are brought up in the Edelgard path early on as being bad, are completely forgotten about by the end of that, and the only time you fight them are in a different path entirely.
Well, I will push back on this point. It's called Three Houses, and they want you to play as all three houses.
But like,
you don't have to like it, but you can see what they are doing with the game. Was like, why did they do this a certain way for you? It's because they want you to go back. It's not going to be for everyone, but at the same time, I also kind of push back with this for a lot of things too. We want innovation. We want creativity. Sometimes these devs need to do something, and if you don't like it, then they're going to just move on and change it, or you're going to like it, and then they're going to keep hammering that point home with later iterations of the game. I understand that it's not for a lot of Fire Emblem fans. I like it. I like the story. I do agree with you that the social aspect of it is very chintzy, especially because I'm a big Persona fan, as I just explained. So I agree with you that the whole like school day stuff I thought was the weakest part of the story. But then when you get over the school day stuff, I feel like the game was good. And I've also said this with other games too, like Starfield, where a lot of people have an issue with that, and other things too. If the beginning of the game takes 10 hours and then it gets good after 10 hours, that's bad game design. And a lot of that stuff that I could see with everyone's complaint about like Three Houses is a lot of that stuff is all beginning of the game. And yeah.
So then if Starfield is bad game design, then so is Three Houses, because it's
yeah. No, I'm not arguing with you. I literally just said I understand everyone's gripes with it. And
I do have a question for you. Have you played Path of Radiance?
I have, but it's been a hot minute. I got to go back to it.
So the reason why I'm bringing it up, and not even to get like extreme in that story, is Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn do kind of similar storytelling, where you're playing different sides of the battle, which is not something that's always in Fire Emblem games, but they do something similar to Three Houses, where you are playing different factions and you get to see different parts of the story. But as Tyler's saying, like, they actually tie that together. It doesn't feel like you have to play 3 times in order to fully understand that story. You can play through that game once and be fine. So I do agree with that gripe. It's like you shouldn't have to like go and weave through multiple playthroughs just to understand the basics of the story.
And I'm not even saying that they have to like, you could still do that to where you can play through all 3 things. They just I think they omit too much. That's all it comes down to. It's an inconsistent narrative. Like each game, your path has a plot hole that is just like, why do they not address this at all for this specific character? Because it seems pivotal to their character. And if this route is about them, then why is it not addressed? Now, you can do that still and still have a situation where everything feels concise and you still have a reason to play all 3 things, because each of those characters all have 3 different goals. Like,
technically,
I can get behind
you can have 4 different goals too, and 5 now with the DLC.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I just think it's inconsistent. That's largely the only thing I have problems with narrative wise with that game. You know, besides what it's already been mentioned, but it's just one of those things where it just felt inconsistent after having played through all all of the paths plus the DLC. It's like this could have been way higher on my list of games I enjoy had it felt consistent, I guess. That's all I got for that.
Like I said, I'm not saying that like your opinions are wrong. I just feel like there's a little bit other things I would attack in terms of like I see what they were trying to do, and you're either going to be okay with it or you're going to hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I just, for me, every other game plays one way, and then Three Houses is the only game that plays differently. And I think it's terrible for that because it just breaks the formula of Fire Emblem. So, I mean, that's fine if people like that game. Obviously, it's very popular. I mean, tons of people who are like, I'm just a Three Houses fan, and I'm happy for them. It's not like this is the first series to ever do it. Even with Final Fantasy VII and the remake, a lot of people are upset at the new direction. I don't mind the new direction. I like it. I like both versions, but there are people that will never touch that game because they're like, this is not how Final Fantasy VII should ever play. And I think that's a respectable opinion too. And I tend to agree with it, even though I like the new direction. So yeah, that's just really what it is. It's like, if there's a series that you love and it's like, okay, we're originally an RPG and now we're going to be like a first person shooter, like anyone would complain that it like completely changes the gameplay, right? I know it's not that drastic, but it's still like it's changing it enough that it doesn't feel like a Fire Emblem game. It feels like other JRPGs that people might like, right? And my opinion on that is like, go play those JRPGs then. You don't need to change my series that I like. Like, just go play Persona, right?
Yeah,
so
that's the part I do agree with you. I didn't like the Persona aspect of it. I 100% agree with you. It was super non-committal, and I think it really did mess up the game flow a lot. But overall, I would say I will play a whole month straight of Fire Emblem Three Houses before I'll ever play Engage ever again.
To each their own.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's why they make the games with the franchises, and they kind of try to reach out to do all that kind of stuff. So, like, as someone that has not played any of the things, I mean, I can see both sides of the stories in a way. But again, I mean, I can understand what they were trying to go for with what you guys were describing for, and why it didn't reach, and why it kind of messed with, what the fans wanted and what the fans were kind of wanting it to get somebody new in, and kind of just settled with it. So I can see both aspects, and both make sense. Completely makes sense. But with that, I actually have the top 5 now, so we'll go with that. We'll get everybody in, get everybody out, and thank everybody in chat for coming and watching. But for number 5, we have Chrono Trigger. For number 4, this is where it kind of gets weird. We got Fire Emblem, and then I just put / Awakening because both games were on there, and we're just going to put both as the number 4. Tales of Symphonia, number 3. Persona 3/5 is our number 2. And then our number 1 is Final Fantasy VII. If you guys have any interest in JRPGs and you have not played any of these and what our panels talk, please try these games. Please try the games that they mentioned. They all sound great. I definitely am going to be playing some Persona dancing rhythm games. I definitely got some games here that I definitely want to check out because of what's listed on here. So yes, please, please, please check them out, because again, if the number ones at all sounded interesting to you, they're very interesting, because again, they are good games. We're gonna go counterclockwise around to have everybody sign off. Okay, what is going on with the Melee Games channel?
Oh, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me, Jason. And
Anytime.
like was said earlier, like I loved hearing everyone's favorite JRPGs. We all had very different approaches, I felt, and I loved that like our number ones all were closely knit to our own experience, and we found games that we also want to play with each other. So sorry that you go through that, Jason. By the way, I didn't get to say that earlier.
No. And again, I that's why I usually don't bring it up too, because I saw even Nero's like, I didn't even know that, but he was like, yeah, because I don't want to bring it up. It's one of the funny things too, is like, even with that kind of stuff, like I don't know if you ever watch me in camera, I always do this because you can see my wire from the little motor I have in my chest. But yeah, I always yeah, it's right there, and I always trying to hide it. I always do this kind of stuff because it always just looks weird. But yeah.
People don't notice it. So
No, I know. I do though.
Yeah. That's fine. I'm just letting you know if you're like
No,
ever self-conscious about
no,
it. None of us notice it.
No, I know, but I do, and it's one of those just weird things that I go through. But again, that's why I don't bring it up because I hate it. But it's just always one of those random things. But I do appreciate it.
It's
Like a
part of
real
life.
man, he doesn't want sympathy.
No, I don't.
It's a part of life. We all got our stuff. But either
Exactly.
way,
Exactly.
I'll get us
But
out
anyway,
of here.
melee games.
So,
Yes, melee games. What's going on?
Melee
Melee games.
games. I'm one half. The other half was in chat earlier. He does
He
not like
was.
JRPGs, but
not.
he likes a lot of other games that I don't play. So he's also great to talk to about shooters and the like. What we're up to. So tomorrow at 7 p.m. PST, we are doing our Melee Town Square. That's where we invite all of you on to come hang out with us and chat about the topic that I pre-select. This month's theme is the Sexy Babe Summer. It's all about video game characters looking good. We just want to celebrate the fun in gaming. So if you want to show off any of your waifu statues that you hide or your body pillows or whatever, this is the time to come in unashamed. If you want to argue who your favorite waifu is, go for it. It's going to be fun. And like I said, you're all welcome. Just come join the Melee Games Discord and just let me know you want to be on the call. Other than that, after the Melee Town Square, I might be on Beelzebub for a little bit to watch Dermy and Nomi go on a donut eating competition. So that's going to be interesting. Saturday, James will be on Party Chat with Nerdy Neo, who's Jason's partner in crime there. And then Sunday is the return of Steam Roulette. We had to miss last week because we were doing some upgrades with our systems, but we're all back and we're going to do Steam Roulette. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, action-packed weekend for us over here.
Yeah, you guys are always busy. So yeah, keep it going. Tyler, I know you got one thing going on, but what else? Anything else? Anything new?
I say I don't really do a whole lot. First off, thank you for having me on once again. I do appreciate the time, and I do have fun being here. But I am not super active on the socials. I am usually just a lurker. But if you were to add me on anything, I am. My tag is listed. I am Team and TGN on pretty much everything. If it's any social platform, it's probably me. So add me if you want. I'm not, like I say, I don't do a whole lot right now, except DM Jason's Dungeons and Dragons group. Looking to
I'm mad at you for making what you did to one of our members do.
I didn't do anything. That wasn't my idea.
No, you should have said no. He cannot leave. I'm pissed. I actually had to act so hard, and I mean, I was so he's our DM right now for our group, and one of our members decided that he wanted to leave. So then I'm not. So then me, as one of my character is, I'm like, crap. Now I have to act more, and I had to act pretty well, and I glad that I know how to cry on command. So he ended up leaving, and he was like one of my good friends in the group that we have, and I'm like, damn, that sucks. But it also does suck. So yeah, I'm super pissed.
It was funny that was his idea of how to give me a week off, and it worked out perfectly. I'm hoping that he gets to play with us on Saturday. If not, I expect him back next week.
Yeah.
But I do look forward to that. It'll be fun. But like I said, thank you for having me. Find me at Team and TGN. I've considered streaming again. I just have to find the time to do it. I will likely be if I do that, I would likely either be playing some sort of JRPG content and or just Destiny 2 if you're into that.
All right, Carl, what's going on with you?
Well, as I just changed my profile picture over here, tomorrow I will be doing the RNG podcast, and my guest will be a one and only Demi Bachi, or as I know her as Sammy. We'll be talking about her journey, starting off being a Rumble streamer to almost quitting, and then to coming back and becoming a VTuber on Twitch. Looking forward to that. And then also on Saturday, I will be on with our personal friend, Mr. Metal Shred Freak, for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Themed episode of the RNG show. Just a little bit of a backstory there. Fernando and I met playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And we've been friends for almost 13 years because of it.
Very cool.
So, yeah. And maybe I'll swing by the town square tomorrow and just be incendiary and just say everyone's waifu is shit.
You totally can. Please feel free to join and just insult everyone. It'd be funny.
I think I will. I'll ham it up.
We're free speech over there, so it's like you can say whatever. You can come on and be like, actually, waifus suck, and I hate this channel, and then leave. Like it'd be funny.
I still think when we taught you about the ostrich shits, that was the funny one.
I learned really weird stuff when I talked to all of you. That's all I have to say.
Hey, I don't know half of the stuff that you guys do too, so I learned as well. But yeah, over here on ours, Neo's in the chat too. He's got a bunch of stuff going on in his Discord that you can see with his channel. But with Top 5 on August 20th, we have Carl going to be back on with Nerd Takes, and we're going to be talking about top 5 boss fights that you beat. Can't be top 5 boss fights. You had to have beaten them, but those top 5 boss fights that you have beaten. And then also Carl, Tyler, and then also who was also the winner? I'm trying to think.
Seth, DJ.
Yes, DJ Axis will be going to be doing the Tournament of Champions for shovelware, and we're going to try to find our first true champion of all the winners that we've had on shovelware, and we're going to be doing that. Date has not been decided yet, but that will be sometime in the next 2-3 weeks within the month of August. So if you are a fan of game shows, you're a fan of this top 5, please subscribe to my channel here, to Nerdy Neos. There's a lot of stuff going on and more stuff to be announced in the future. So we do appreciate you guys in chat. As always, I appreciate you guys jumping onto the show. Again, my shows and Neo shows can't be around if it isn't for you guys wanting to be a part of them. Again, thank you so much for being on them. And yeah, everybody else, I hope you have a great rest of your evening, night. Whenever you watch this, please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and have a great rest of your day.